Great.
Call for the vote, please. Okay. Aaron Ham, aye. Amali?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson is not here. Mrs. Pickle?
Aye.
4-0 vote. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting at 5:59.
Thank you very much.
Now we will reconvene with the Merced Union High School District Board meeting at 5:59. And we ended closed session early. We will be reconvening into closed session at the end of this meeting, but we did take some action. The board has appointed Mandy Ballinger as Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. She will start in the position effective April 1st, 2023. The roll call vote was as follows. Trustee Jayasinga, aye. Trustee Lopez, aye. Trustee Pickle, aye. Trustee Valadez, aye. And Trustee Ham, aye. Congratulations, Mrs. Bowman.
Yeah.
Congratulations, let's hear it.
Just thank you to the board and to Mr. Peterson for the opportunity. I'm excited to help the district continue to grow and to work with all of our instructional teams to keep doing what's best for our students. So thank you.
Congratulations, thank you. Looking forward to it. We will discuss student disciplinary cases. We will report out on that following a second session of closed session. And with that, Mrs. Pickle, will you lead us in the flag salute, please? Yes, I'm sorry. Reporting out statement for non-reelection and release of probationary and temporary certificate employees. In closed session, the board took action to issue a notice of non-reelection and/or release to 18 probationary and temporary teachers and 2 school psychologist interns pursuant to Education Code Section 44929.21B and 44954B, effective at the end of the 22-23 school year, and directed the superintendent or designee to send out appropriate legal notices. The roll call vote was as follows. Trustee Jayasinga, aye. Trustee Lopez, aye. Trustee Pickle, aye. Trustee Valadez, no. And Trustee Ham, aye. Now the flag salute. Thank you. Ready? Begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I so move.
Were we going to pull that action item off?
Yes. We are going to move action items 1505 and 1506 to a later meeting.
You want to amend your motion? For this one.
I move to amend my motion with the removals of items 1505 and 1506.
I'll second that motion.
Call for the vote. Mrs. Rohrbach, I'm an aye.
I too am an aye, Mr. Roback.
And that passes 5-0. Viviana Fuentes. We look forward to you introducing some students to us.
Good evening, board members and cabinet. Today, I have the special pleasure of
Ms. Rohrbeck, please read your text.
I apologize. This meeting is incredibly complicated, and I am not doing a very graceful job at any of this. And so I apologize. I thought this section was later, but it is not. And so it is recommended, I'm looking at 503. Yes, it is recommended that the board approve an employment contract for Mandy Ballinger to serve as Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services. The contract of employment is from April 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023, and includes the following elements of compensation. Effective April 1st, 2023, Mrs. Ballinger will receive an annual base salary of $183,130. Mrs. Ballinger will receive the following additional forms of compensation: health and welfare benefits on the same terms as other certificated administrators.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
Mrs. Rohrbeck, I'm an aye. That motion passes 5-0. Now, Ms. Fuentes, we are ready for you.
Good evening, MUHSD Board of Trustees and cabinet members. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce some amazing students, athletes, and also a special recognition for one of our staff members here at MUHSD. To start off, I'm gonna give a special welcome to the Atwater High School boys varsity basketball team and their coaches. They were undefeated regular season champions, and I'm going to invite Principal Parley to come and speak in behalf of this amazing team.
Good evening, board, cabinet, and guests. Tonight, my name is Alexi Parley. I'm the principal at Atwater High School. Tonight, I would like to congratulate our AHS boys basketball team on an amazing season that they had this year. The boys finished the season 29-1 with a 29-game winning streak. This is the most wins in school history. The boys broke our school record for the best start of the season, which was previously 20-0. They have been league champs 3 years running. They were the Manteca Boosters tourney champions, Gallo Invitational champions, Atascadero Christmas tourney champions. They were undefeated league champions, #2 seed in the Sac Joaquin Section Division II playoffs. Colton Dukes was named league MVP for the second time and became the school's all-time leading scorer. Tyler Parr and Jaden Hillier were named first team All-League. KJ Ross was named second team All-League. Leo Cabrera was named Honorable Mention and the CCC Sportsmanship Award. And Coach Smith was named the Conference Coach of the Year. The inner strength, commitment required to turn a program around in a few years, that's rare, Coach Smith. Winning every regular season game, that's unheard of, at least in the last 20 to 30 years. It's not just winning, it's how you won, the teamwork. How you carried yourselves, pride and poise. You brought the basketball community and Atwater High School a lot of joy. Thank you, and we are honored to recognize you tonight. If you guys can come on up, we have something for you.
What kind of presentation is this? Light 'em up. I know. Yes.
Mr. Calderon, we would love to hear you introduce each athlete.
Please. Line them up. Line them up. Ready, break. Sure.
Awesome.
My name is Azim Moldra.
I'm Colton Dukes.
Coy Wayne.
My name is Jaden Hillier.
My name is Brandon Alvarado.
My name's Kevin Ross.
My name's Nathan Condon.
My name's Nicholas Shell.
My name is Patrick Sheehan. I'm Leo Sobrero. I'm Fernando Torres Diaz. My name is Tyler Parr. Robert Nunes. Kanoa Smith.
Daniel Motz.
Ben Peterson. Happy birthday, Nunes. Coach Ibarra.
Great job. Great job.
Great job, students and coaches. Thanks for coming to spend a little bit of your evening with us.
Atwater High at Merced High.
Oh, yeah. But they got the award.
Yes.
Okay, the next recognition will be from El Capitan High School. We will recognize Associate Principal Mr. Nunes. He was awarded the Association of California School Administrators Secondary Co-Administrator of the Year Award. I would like to invite Principal Cope to say a few words.
Good evening, President Ham, school board members, cabinet, Ms. Rohrbach. My name is Megan Cope, and I'm the principal of El Capitan. I apologize for the raspy voice. I'm not feeling great, but we're gonna. I know that's what made me so emotional. So Robert Nunes, I nominated him for the Secondary Co-Administrator of the Year for the Merced AXA Region 9 Award. And I just want to read a few things that some kids have said about Mr. Nunes because I think that's so much more impactful than anything I can say. Mr. Nunes did a lot for me this year. He helped keep me out of trouble and keep my grades up and stuff like that. Mr. Nunes is the GOAT. I appreciate and respect him. Tristan Robertson, Jr. at El Capitan. Mr. Nunes helped me so much over this school year. If it wasn't for Mr. Nunes, I wouldn't be as open to talking to other administrators or other students. Through the hard times I've had at El Capitan, he showed me how to express myself as a gaucho in a positive way that'll benefit me in the future. Nunes may not remember your name, but he sure knows your face and your story. Mr. Nunes appreciates all students, even the ones that have a background that isn't pretty, and he doesn't judge you on it. Adelina Brady, senior at El Cap. Mr. Nunes is such an inspiration to students and staff and will always have a special place in the Atwater family. He was a father figure in so many different ways to so many different students. I wish him nothing but the best in his future accomplishments, and we are all so proud of what he has done so far. Addison Ramirez, Jr. at Atwater High. Nunes' impact on our community is as big as his heart. His positivity is infectious, and his presence lights up any room. Thank you, Mr. Nunes, not only for your service at Atwater High, but for truly caring about us. Chris Artiaga, Sr. at Atwater High. And the reason I wanted to pull students from both schools is because Mr. Nunes was at Atwater for so long, but even coming to El Capitan in such a short amount of time, he's been able to make a positive impact just like he did at Atwater High. So congratulations, Robert Nunes, on your award as Secondary Co-Administrator of the Year.
Just a little note about Mr. Nunes. People may not know this, but he was my sophomore football coach at Atwater High School, back when he had hair. And he made such a huge impact on the group of young men, and we still talk about those days being on the sophomore football field with Coach Nunes and the cool blue truck that he had that we all wanted as high schoolers. So thank you, and best of luck.
Now, I have a special recognition for a student here from MUHSD High School. He is definitely a bear that exemplifies what it means to be bear strong. And Esteban Castañeda, that was Merced County's 42nd annual academic decathlon top scoring student. It's an achievement just to be able to compete for any team to outperform everyone. That's incredibly impressive. Congratulations. So come up on so you can receive your certificate. We're very proud of him. And then now we have Buhat Colony High School is here with us as well. If you have not heard, they were Merced County's 42nd annual academic decathlon top scoring team. Everyone knows that a major factor for success in any endeavor is preparation. It's a component a coach is responsible for. Well done, Mr. Newton and Buhat Colony team. This is no small feat. We're proud to recognize your team. And we will also invite you guys to come up and receive your certificate.
Anthony Sarabia. Liam Newsom. Lupita Mesqua. Tyler Juarez. Mr. Newton, congratulations to you. Fantastic job.
That concludes our presentations and recognitions. And lastly, we'll be recognizing more athletic teams next month as some are still competing. I hope our community is as proud as we are from the academic, sports, and our staff accomplishments this school year. Thank you.
And now for the principal report, Mr. Knott.
Showcase.
Showcase first, yes.
For proud to present for our showcase this year, our Merced Marching 100. I'm going to ask Mr. Schmidt to come up to introduce the group that he brought with him to represent us.
Go ahead and turn the mic on. There we go. Actually, I'm going to let the students introduce themselves. They're much better speakers than I.
I am Lisa Sanchez. I'm a junior here at Merced High School.
I am Addison Lazari, and I'm a freshman here at Merced High School.
I am Alma Juarez, and I'm a senior at Merced High School.
I'm Isaac Borbin, and I'm a junior here at Merced High School.
Good evening, school board and cabinet members. Before we get started, we would like to thank Mr. Knott, the Merced High School administrative team, our boosters, and the district office for all of their support. We could not be this successful without you. The band is well known for its continual tradition of excellence. The program spends many hours practicing. Quite often, people ask if the band ever stops practicing. The answer is no. Excellence is achieved through a strong focus on fundamentals and enjoy what they do. It is Mr. Schmidt's belief that students will perform better if they enjoy what they're doing. To start off with our program, the Merced Marching 100 first got its name in 1948 when the band had 78 members. On year, our student average is 100 kids, as says the name. We compete in the highest class regardless of the band size. That's open class. It means that your class, the band has more than 110 kids, and our band size, we're pretty small. We place at top 3 at every competition for many years, winning many sweepstakes awards. During our competitive season, the band performs at many rallies, football games, and other events in the area, such as the local Christmas parade, Veterans Parade, and more. Our second is the symphonic band, consists of about 80 musicians, performs music at grade 5, which is the highest level of high school/college literature. We normally receive superior ratings, which are the highest. We also host a concert where all the bands in the school district perform for each other at the Kamigar Theater, and this year it will be on May 11th. Second group would be our Winter Guard. That normally has around 20 people. They compete in the second highest class. This year we are going through a new generation of members, and they were recently second at their last competition. This week, the Guard is traveling to Union City, and in a couple of weeks, they will be traveling to Manhattan Beach for the largest competition in California. Next is our Winter Percussion, around 30 members. Currently, we have students from LCAP and Livingston performing with us. Last week, the group placed first at a big competition in the Bay Area. This week, the group will be traveling to Temecula to compete in an even bigger competition. Our last is the Jazz Ensemble. Consists of 18 to 20 of our top musicians in the program. The band performs at several festivals and concerts throughout the year. This group is a place for our top musicians to showcase their abilities. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Addison Lazari, and I play alto saxophone for the MM100. I am a part of Winter Percussion, and I'm just a part of various activities around the school. I'm part of leadership, and I'm part of our FCCLA program. So when I joined band, like as a freshman, you're like in a bigger fishbowl. Like you had like small groups, and now you're in a bigger spot. So I was coming in with things I didn't expect to like be happening at the time with people around me, and I felt like I didn't really have like a big like group of people just around me. And joining band, it was like joining well, I've been in band for various years, but this band is like a second family. Like you're traveling with each other, you're knowing each other from just like every competition, every single time you're there. Like the football games, that was like major bonding time. Like competitions too, like just being there with your kind of people, it just like brought such a big like impact on me since I've started. And I don't regret like joining all these different things. Like yeah, like the practices, it's a lot. I'm here from like 7 in the morning to like 9 o'clock sometimes at night, but like in the end it was like it's like worth it. Like Like, I love the program, and I don't regret any bit of it.
Hi, I'm Alma Juarez. I'm a senior at Merced High School. I play alto sax. I'm also the band president, and I'm also the section leader for the alto sax. Some of my favorite memories being in band is just getting to know everyone. They're like my second family. I don't want to cry. It's just, this program has been so much for me. I think it's just like, it brings something out of me. I have so many bonds with the freshmen, the sophomores, so just leaving this program is really sad. I'm glad to be the president this year because it just gives me the trust of so many people. They come to me for advice. They ask me how, like, just planning stuff for the band and having movie nights. It's just really bonding. I mean, the competitions this year, my section this year is just really good. It's just a really good program. And also one of my favorite memories is last year was going to Disneyland and marching down Disney. And not a lot of people could say that they marched down Disney. And I think that was one of the greatest experiences, just marching down Disney with my second family.
I'm Isaac Borbin. I am a junior. I am a clarinet in the Marching 100. I am also the section leader. And I say one thing that separates some of the members in the Marching 100 is a lot of us are student athletes. And that's a big part of who we are. For me, not only is marching and athleticism, it's incredibly taxing, but I would say, like my colleagues here said, it's like a second family. It's more than that for me. They're inseparable parts of my life. And my section specifically, I'd say from meeting them to now, just growing our bonds, growing our abilities together, it's amazing. I've seen their growth. It's incredible. Being a leader is it's a very incredible opportunity and experience, both in here and in athletics. But being a student athlete, I'd say something that sets me apart would be that I'm not just a student athlete. I take part in one of the most respected sports. I play varsity football, and I'm a leader, and it's just an incredible experience. A lot of people look up to me. They look to me for advice. They look to me for advice. And I'd say I would not regret any of the decisions I've made in joining, in participating, in doing everything regarding this program. It's just been amazing. I've loved every second of it, mostly. Sometimes it does get frustrating, but I love it. It's who I am. It makes who I am and everything I do. It's a part of me.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions, kids?
Well, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate each of you taking the time to introduce yourselves and speak. You're all great public speakers. Thank you. And leaders, obviously, on your campus. So thank you.
Yeah.
How many hours do you guys practice?
I'm part of the cymbal line for winter percussion. So every Tuesday and Thursday we have practices from 4:30 to 8:30. So like we have 0 in the morning. So like again, I'm here from 7 to like 8:45 maybe. And then they have sometimes like, Wednesday, and then Wednesday we have like our normal band practices from 3:30 to 5. And from there, sometimes like percussion, they'll have us do like 9 to 5s on the weekends or 9 to 9s, even if we have to. So
It's quite a commitment. Congratulations.
I didn't have a question, but we were actually in Disneyland with our middle school band and got to watch you guys march at Disney last May, which was a proud moment to, be there from Merced and cheer y'all on, and y'all did a fantastic job. So congratulations on that. Thank you for being here tonight.
And I love coming on campus and hearing you guys practice. I love it, and I can hear you from my house. You're awesome. So keep it up.
Thank you. Yes.
Just from my perspective out here, I love to see the connectedness, that it seems like you guys truly are a family. And between the teacher, and the 4B out there, I think it's fantastic because I think it shows, your passion, once again, your connectedness and those relationships that you guys have developed, these past 3-4 years. I think it's fantastic. It just goes to show, obviously Bear Strong, the Homeless Scholars and Champions, like Mrs. Hammis mentioned, you guys being up here at 7 o'clock in the morning to, 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I think I'm in awe of what you guys do every single day. I think that's fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Great job and great leadership to all of you.
Thank you.
Needless to say, we are very proud of our band. President Ham, you made a good point. I used to, as a kid, wake up to the Marching 100. I lived not that far that way. So it's good to have them continue to grow strong. So good evening again, board members, cabinet members, and guests. I'm Marcus Knott, principal at Merced High School. And, the 2022-23 school year has seen MHS staff re-energize its efforts to create a strong campus community that is supportive of all of its students. The goal remains for all students to leave MHS as well-rounded young men and women ready to successfully engage in the next chapters of their lives. And we want them to leave as strong scholars and champions, as Mr. Lopez just mentioned. We want them to basically be prepared for whatever endeavors they choose after they graduate from high school. So right now, all of our Bears are not currently meeting all of their potential. One of our priorities for this year has been to establish an early warning system for our students that may not be meeting our expectations in the classroom. Our teaching staff has done a very good job of documenting interactions and concerns in the ARIES database, which allows our intervention team, which is led by our APU guidance, Mr. Nicholson, to query information and use it to prioritize student contacts based on needs. Our counselors who sit in on these meetings are also able to leave with information about students and actionable steps to follow up with them. Likewise, our APs of student support and our intervention coordinator attend those meetings and also learn valuable information that helps with interventions for students in need. Regarding instruction, MHS continues its efforts to teach to the level of our standards while also providing relevant learning experiences and practicing transferable skills. This year, the instructional problem of practice at Merced has been to increase students' ability to communicate and collaborate effectively. Under the direction of AP of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Sebastian, our work has included department training days specific to increasing structured academic communication, instructional rounds with a focus on observing student-to-student communication. We've done some staff peer observation of communication strategies and practice in the classroom, and a lot of work around efficient and effective ways of collecting observable data in the classroom. All of this, of course, is directed to our vision for readiness, which includes our students becoming strong communicators and collaborators. So that's been work that we've been doing. It's been working pretty well. Along with that, we're super proud of our English department, specifically our freshman intensive and functional English teachers, with the implementation of our Read 180 curriculum. Our intensive level students have made some substantial reading growth. I know Director Johnson is going to talk a little bit about Read 180 a little bit later, but I wanted to mention how proud we are of that and our young teachers that have been just instrumental in getting that going off the ground. Our work also right now is ongoing and beginning to intensify on establishing and truly implementing a well-designed MTSS model. The timing of our next spring WASC visit right now couldn't come at a better time, as we're kind of combining our work with WASC and our design of our MTSS model at the same time. Most recently, we've had some staff meetings dedicated to collecting information and clearly identifying areas for us to focus on that are going to have the most impact on our students re-engaging and learning at a high level. The conversation has been spirited, but I'm proudly reminded of our staff's heart of the bear and their willingness to attack challenges head on, and we are looking forward to finishing the rest of 22-23 strongly. I forgot to mention earlier, one of the things that we are proud of is how strongly our kids are responding. We have recognized, I think, over almost 1,000 students right now at this point of the year for their efforts of being Bear Strong with attendance and character. So we're having a good year, and we're looking forward to moving into 22-23. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knott. Okay, now we'll move to the general comment period. This meeting is recorded. Individuals addressing the board are asked to fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room. Complete a blue card to speak to an item not on the agenda and a yellow card to speak to an item on the agenda. Please return the card to the Administrative Secretary of the Governing Board, Mrs. Rohrbach. Individual addressing the board shall be limited to 3 minutes each with no more than 20 minutes per topic. During this portion of the agenda, the public is invited to comment on items which are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter of the jurisdiction of the Board of Trustees. The board will take no action at this time but may refer the issue for further consideration. Individuals who wish to comment on agenda items shall be provided an opportunity to comment after the staff report and before the board's consideration of that item. Individuals who cannot wait to address the board when the agenda item is addressed may make their comments at this time. Jose Moran.
Good evening, board members, cabinet, and Ms. Rohrbach. It's a pleasure being here today. And I'm here today, my name is Jose Moran, and I'm here today as the chair for the Livingston High School Band Review Festival of Bands Committee, which we're planning to have our second annual band review on Saturday, May 6th, very early, if you're there like at 10 o'clock, but if we always need help, you can always be there at 7 to volunteer. But please save the date. I left some flyers with Ms. Rohrbach for you. Okay, you got it. Perfect, thank you. And we're gonna have a marching band, jazz ensemble, concert band, drumline, and special guest, Merced College Jazz. And obviously we're gonna have a lot of food. So we're gonna offer the opportunity to the LHS clubs to be able to fundraise. So there's gonna be a lot of different things. So save the date, and we're also looking for donations. So any spare change that you might have is welcome. So more information here, you can contact Mr. Leverett. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Lockeretti.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Priya Laccaretti. Good to see you all today. I'm a parent of 3 students at Golden Valley, 9th, 10th, and 11th grades. And I just cannot express my gratitude to Golden Valley. Great school, great teachers, great administrators, Mr. Swartwood, and everyone. I just love the school. My kids love the school. So I'm here to talk about 2 things. First one is the access to AP classes. They are not offered, some science AP classes are not offered every year at Golden Valley. So my 11th grader this year, when she signed up and went at the end of 10th grade, she signed up thinking that she was going to take some AP classes, and they were not, because very few students signed up, it didn't happen. So now in 12th grade, she'll have to take those classes, and we kind of like scrambled to find a science class for her to take. So she's taking college at Merced College. Again, thank you for the opportunity for, ability for them to take a class at Merced College. But it puts a huge burden on parents when it's not offered every year, and students too, because we have to think about 2 years ahead instead of just a year ahead. So I encourage you, even if there are 3 students, it's, I think, the district's responsibility to offer the class. And I think one of the reasons why there are not enough students at Golden Valley taking those classes is because how we do our admissions and transfers in this district. I personally know many, when I say many, it's more than single digits. So I consider that many students who were supposed to be at Golden Valley, but for some other reason, either they chose to misrepresent where they lived or they got a transfer approved. And today, as I was driving to this meeting, a parent called me, and their children who were supposed to go to Golden Valley, she's like, Priya, tell me what you did 4 years ago when your daughter was going to go to Golden Valley. I had my doubts because I was told Golden Valley is not the nice part of town, so don't send your kids there. So I applied for a transfer, went through that process, and at the end decided not to do it because I felt like my kids should go. It was actually my daughter who said, I'm gonna go to Golden Valley. So she taught me a lesson in like really valuing our neighborhood schools. So I really urge you to look into that process, because what it affects is it's 2 kids not being on a basketball team that can really change the trajectory of a basketball team. It's 5 kids being in a class, an AP class, that can actually, now you can have a class there. So you really need to look into our processes of admissions and transfers, because I just don't like seeing a school which has really high graduation rates, really good teachers and administrators, not have the ability to teach to the students that really are supposed to go there because of this false narrative. And the other, all students deserve, regardless of their ability of student achievement, they all deserve good things. And I really wish, even if there's 2 students, 1 student wanting to take a class, I really want you to look into offering that. So those were my comments. I ran out of time, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Ms. Nacarati, I want to thank you for, coming up here and obviously speaking volumes of our Golden Valley High School, because of some of the comments that we do get about, that high school. And for you as a parent and also a trustee, I applaud you for voicing that. Thank you very much.
So I hope you look into it.
Thank you.
Rick Wendling. I think he left. Okay.
He left you his card, though. Call him. Call him.
So at this time, we'll move to the reports and discussion portion of the agenda. And I believe Mr. Johnson is going to share superintendent goals update.
Good evening, President Ham, board members, Mr. Peterson on the YouTube cabinet, lower level cabinet, and Ms. Rohrbach. Thank you for having us. I'm here to discuss one of our newest programs, part of our MTSS, and that's intervention coordinators. This year, we hired some people to kind of fill in the gaps for fill in some gaps in our MTSS plan. Now, you guys have to notice the color coordination here. I want you to notice that. Okay, so in our tiered system, the bottom level is green. The goal, the superintendent goal, refers to the academic vocabulary in the MTSS plan, the 5 academic vocabulary words, the school-wide maxims. It's celebrating who you are. It's being bear strong, that type of thing, and rewarding kids for making progress towards the maxims. Number 2 is academic behavior and SEL. 3 is high quality instruction. 4 is benchmarking, and 5 is screening and monitoring. So intervention coordinators come in at tier 2, the yellow level, and I brought 2 of our best and brightest here to discuss, kind of what they do every day. To date, there's been 1,029 mentor check-ins by mentors at each site, and 997 check-in connects. So that's some of the data. And I brought Mr. Sanchez, Mr. Brandon Sanchez. I was thinking your dad's name. Sorry.
One of the best.
And, okay.
One of the best and the brightest, right?
Yes. And Ms. Kelly Silva here to talk about their day-to-day and the effects that they're having on kids. So I'm not sure who's next.
Good evening. I know you guys have been waiting for this presentation all year long. What do we do, right? Our focus when this position was posed to us was to supply support to students that aren't getting the needs met in Tier 1, right? Providing them with extra support interventions to prevent any major behavior issues. The way that we kind of gather these students, right? There's a process that's done at different sites. Each site's kind of a little bit different, but the overall idea is referrals, whether it's AP, academics, behavior, discipline. We get them and we try to provide them with targeted interventions on social coping, communication, self-management, and academic support. Through this process, we've learned that the caseload needs to be kind of lowered. We've had various caseloads from hundreds in a quarter to starting off with 20. When I had those 20, I could really focus on them. And I was able to find out that these kids needed someone to talk to. And they needed someone to connect to. Overall, it's been an eye-opening experience. Going from 200 students, right, and you might talk to a couple of them at a time, to 40 students, and you hear the heartbreaking stories that they go through. It's tough. It's tough, and they just need those connections. The big thing that we all have as intervention coordinators is the ability to make connections. The ability to make connections and the willpower to continue to try. So that's how we kind of started, right? And we're growing. We're growing.
Good evening, everybody. So the role of the intervention coordinator, I guess the best way to explain what we do is we're a case manager for our at-risk students. We're advocates. We, like Brandon said, we are trying to connect students with people on campus, positive resources on campus. Mr. Johnson has done a really good job of training our team just to really child find, really get to know the child, try to figure out their background, what happened in the past, and trying to figure out their future so that they can graduate and have a positive impact in high school. So a few of our main roles is to build positive relationships with students. And I personally feel the more we're connecting students on campus, the more we're also supporting teachers in the classroom. And not only building the positive relationships with the students, but the parents. Basically being our case, the case manager to our at-risk students. We're really communicating with our parents often and sometimes daily. We're really communicating with teachers, letting them know maybe possibly what interventions we're working on or maybe some background information that might be helpful for the teachers to kind of understand maybe the trauma this child's experienced or the battles that they're facing. We have daily check-ins with them, and we also try to teach our students to advocate for themselves and check in with us when they need us. Sometimes that's a hard task. Again, contacting parents almost on a daily basis. Connecting our students to the appropriate resources on campus, and I'll get to that in a second, but really emphasizing that we have to communicate very, very often with their grade level counselor because it's a team effort. And the more we're communicating with our team, the better success for that child. Advocating for our students in SSTs. A lot of the times, parents, students don't necessarily understand the role of the SST, and so we can come in there as intervention coordinators and be the advocate. We can identify the positives that the student is showing and not necessarily all the challenges. Sometimes those meetings could be tough. And also making sure the things we're talking about in those SSTs are getting executed. So just following through, consistently being that advocate for that student. And a lot of the times intervening before there's discipline issues. That's the main goal, is intervening before discipline issues and really making sure those students know what our expectations are at school. I think the most important, and we'll get to this in a second, is introducing kids to positive people on campus and positive programs. I almost cried when the band was talking because I loved the student that just said, like, this is my second family. So one of our main jobs as an intervention coordinator is to connect these students to something like a sports program and FFA, drama, band, connecting them to the library, finding them resources that we feel will have a successful impact in their high school and get them to graduation. And then lastly, just being everywhere they are, providing supervision during school, during extracurricular. We want to be very, very visible to all of our students.
Okay, I definitely cried. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's exactly what we do on a daily basis. One of the best things that I've been experiencing at LCAP was the leadership of Ms. Cope. She's pushed me to do more than what is expected of me. And one of those things that I've done is created a website for teachers and provided a PD for them on MTSS. So teachers have references to the referral process and how that looks. And if-then kind of a checklist. So if a teacher's seeing this kind of behavior, it provides them with a list of different interventions that they can try to see if it works. So when they come to the SST, they have information and data to go off of. Classroom management with the best practices. I know a big issue, I'm sure you guys have been talking about it, is phone issues. And a lot of times it's say, put your phone away. Hey, don't have your phone out. Well, that's a lot of negative. And these kids already have a lot of negative and stress in their life. So I found a website that promotes responsible use of phone and rewards students for staying off their phone. And teachers were able to implement that like a Google Classroom. And then finally, if all else fails, teachers still have the resource to send a student out for a little timeout, right, to reflect and mediate after. So after doing that with the teachers, we were able to have 10 more SSTs that would have gone unnoticed.
All right. We have to kind of redefine success in our job because for someone who's Portuguese and competitive and very impatient, I came into this job thinking I was going to change everyone's life in the first quarter, and I had to be reminded by so many of my colleagues and Mr. Johnson, like, hey, it's not how behavior works. And so we've really had to redefine what success means. Sometimes that could be, I'm very happy that this kid's coming to school. I'm very happy that this kid has 50 tardies and not 100 tardies. So we're really trying to figure out small wins. And so 2 success stories that I want to talk about and highlight, and I got their permission, are 2 students, 1 freshman and 1 sophomore. Nevaeh Rodriguez came to me as a freshman with a lot of social emotional issues going on. And as freshmen, it's really hard to identify who are the kids that need that tier 2 support. And a lot of the times we just refer them to tier 3 really fast, and we didn't try tier 1, tier 2 much. And so Nevaeh came into my office frequently, crying, home stuff, trauma, a lot of challenges outside of school. And finally, after probably our 10th meeting and check and connect, you know, she always had anger and wanted to fight. And I was like, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do in high school or after you graduate high school? I don't really know. Well, you seem like you want to fight. Have you ever tried wrestling? And she kind of like looked at me like, no, not really. And so I said, let's go. So we walked right over to Chopper Mello's room, and I introduced the 2, and I said, hey, I think you might have a future wrestler. And luckily, because Chopper Mello's amazing, he said, hey, I'm looking in Aries, and if you think you want to wrestle, these grades need to go up, these tardies need to go down, all these, she didn't have many discipline issues, but he kind of just said, and if you join wrestling, you're not gonna be able to quit. And I asked her, I said, are you up for that? And she said, yep. So long story short, she became a wrestling champion in her freshman year. I mean, I think this girl only lost 1 time, and when she lost, she was upset. But I'm just so proud of her. You know, I'm so proud of her. At our Spring Night of Excellence, she got a Cougar Pride Award nominated by one of her teachers. And then the second story is Elijah Silva, sophomore, more discipline, you know, a pretty long discipline record in his first year and first semester of his sophomore year. He had 4 Fs when he came to me after a few intervention meetings and some check-in connects. I just said, look, we got to get you into a sport. You know, kind of went down the list. He wasn't into FFA, no drama, no band. So walked him over to Coach Woodings, and he's on the track team, and he's still working on getting his grades up, but he went from 4Fs, he only currently has a D, and Coach Woodings relayed to me that he's probably one of the best jumpers that she's seen so far. So for me, those are my 2 success stories, and I'm hoping that I have more next time I'm here presenting. And I just wonder, where would these students in particular be if we weren't able to provide those tier 2 interventions? If my position at Golden Valley was not there, where would they be?
I don't have elaborate ones like that, right? she kind of takes the cake on that. But today I had a student come in, unbeknownst to me, said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay, what's up?" "I just need a break. I was really upset in class, and I needed to take a break, and I felt like you were the right person to come to." I'm like, "Perfect. That's exactly what I'm here for. Let's work through what upset you," right? This student had 3 fights previous, so the anger is there, but the coping strategies weren't. Okay, so they have people now on campus. I do have one story. Okay, I have a student, 45 assertive disciplinary entries, 4 fights, 6 confrontives, 2 expulsions. He's a senior at LCAP. He received the Legacy Award because his senior year this year, he maintained a 3.0 average. He has a 96% attendance rate. And since the start of school, he's only had 4 assertive disciplinary issues, and they have all been tardies. So you have the small successes of, hey, removing themselves from a situation to those major growth. And like Kelly said, we just want to say thank you, because you guys took a leap of faith. You guys took a leap of faith in a position that was unknown. Trust me, we saw the description. It was unknown, right? Right? But you guys took a leap of faith, and I want to let you guys know it's working. Thank you.
By the way, yeah, I wrote that description. That's awesome. Anyway, so far the training this year has included teen mental health first aid. I brought in Dave Lockridge to do the trauma informed. We also took a field trip out to Juvenile Hall just to kind of interact with those folks and build relationships with them, because we do get kids coming out of the hall. And, next steps include implementing more structure in the referral process for their caseload. We're looking at Panorama to track just the interventions and each school, how many kids they have in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, and to track if the interventions are working, so we can bring you guys some quantitative data. Attend more trainings to learn about behavioral interventions, utilize an inventory database of specific behaviors which provides them the appropriate intervention. Remember, these are not behaviorists. These folks were teachers last year, and so now they're dealing with a clientele that has a lot of challenges, and so it's it is a steep learning curve. Create a specific exiting process. Like we talked about, what does success look like? Do I have this kid all year, or have I built this kid up enough that they can persist on their own, and we can pull another kid into the caseload? And last but not least, we have to work with the feeder schools to get their intervention data. We're always in the reactive process because we get a kid and we have to wait till something happens. And then the kid's on our radar and they're already Tier 2. If we can get better, more specific intervention data from what happened with these kids in their 8th and 7th grade year, then we can start them at Tier 2 when we get them. So those are our next steps. Any questions?
Is Ms. Lack already still here? No? I'm just thinking in terms of number 6, like you just mentioned about working with the feeder schools. And we always have that dialogue because they come to us, with some academic challenges. They're not at grade level. Okay, that's one area. But now we're talking, behavior, and those processes for those interventions. That part of, I think, for number 6 for me would be start that collaboration, whether it's the work of Mr. Johnson, to start working with our feeder schools, because those kids are coming to us, as 8th graders with these challenges from when they were 4 or 5 years old. So we're having to correct a lot of behaviors that they've had all this time, and then now they're ours, now we're reacting. You know, so at what point do we start being proactive at an earlier age so that we eliminate some of those issues that they're coming to us? And then we can truly focus on the academic part of it versus having to push resources to support the behavior part of it. You know, in turn, it's going to produce a more well-rounded student that's going to succeed or have more successes in their lives. I think on slide number 1, you mentioned it was a check and connect, and what was the other one? A check-in? A check-in. Okay, what's the difference between those two?
Not much.
Okay, just I just ask it. Okay.
On our end, not much.
In the beginning, much like Brandon said, everybody was kind of on a different page.
Right.
And so some people were putting mentor check-in, somebody were putting check-connect, some putting both.
Okay.
So I just pulled that data and said, okay, this is what we have. And moving forward, that's one of the next steps that we have, is to make sure we get on the same page so we're tagging everything the same. But Aries has its limitations around interventions. It truly does. It's clunky. And so that's why we're going to be looking at Panorama and using that as a process to help kind of help categorize everything. And there's a cost. There's a cost with that, just FYI.
Yeah, right. No?
It's not free.
Right. Well, I know Mr. Sanchez mentioned something about numbers, you know, whether it's 20 or whether it's 100. So obviously, if there's a need, you know, then it's something that we can truly look at, okay, a funding source for that, because we need to support our kids, you know, across the board. And if you guys are having success stories now at your specific sites, I can't imagine what could happen if we truly invested more into this, you know, across the entire district for all of our feeders. I mean, our 6 comps and then our 4 alts, you know, that we can produce just
Well,
a better
our
kid.
schools are big.
Yeah.
You know, and kids fall in between the cracks, and some kids are used to living in those cracks.
Right.
And so, you know, you need people to kind of go find them, support them, build a relationship, and get them to the appropriate resource. Ma'am.
Mr. Lopez, I want to respond to your feeder school comment. I know for us at Golden Valley, from the junior high feeder schools, we got just a list of like, here you go, you know? And so I started meeting with Weaver in November, and so they kind of gave me a list, and I every once a month I go and I meet with individuals, because it was so hard for me to identify freshmen. Unfortunately, freshmen usually make poor choices. And when I look at the juniors and seniors, a lot of their poor choices were made freshman year. So thank you for that comment. I think as an intervention coordinator team, we're all starting to make those connections.
No, thank you both for your work, and also our intervention people across the district that is doing this fantastic job. So thank you, Mr. Johnson, for that.
Mr. Sanchez, you had mentioned 1,029. Did you say not students, right? It's check-ins?
Oh, I was just talking about how many students I have on my caseload. Mr. Johnson over here has the data to pull from the interventions that have been going on, but that was about 1,100.
But you mentioned the number of 1,029. Is that how many times you've talked to someone? Is that?
That's across the district from all the intervention coordinators.
Oh, that's the whole district?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
Probably more than that because we weren't coding correctly.
right.
Okay.
If I was doing that, I'd be pretty impressed with myself.
Well, I was impressed.
Thanks, thank you. I'll take the credit.
Roll with it, man. Roll with it. Just roll with it.
But still, I'm still impressed with what you both and the rest of the team do for the students. And you, who said it? I think you said it. My freshman year, I messed up, and we didn't have this. So, there was a couple teachers that said, "What the heck are you doing?" And so I did better the rest of the 3 years. So, yeah, so I'm glad we do this. And then, so I know I think you said this, Mr. Sanchez, just as,
Go for it.
I don't know if it was a joke, but you said that you cry almost daily or daily. And
I definitely did.
And
it was very an emotional ride, from kids losing their parents, from parents not being around, to just being financially not able to support themselves. And being from 2 educators, I knew about it, but I didn't comprehend it. You don't comprehend it until you hear it on a daily basis. And it just breaks your heart to know that these kids have to go to school, and they want to be successful. Nobody wakes up wanting to fail, but there's things that are preventing them from being successful. And it's difficult as a teacher to get those stories out of kids in a room of 40.
And the reason I asked that is, I'm sure you both of you and everyone else talk to these kids and hear all these stories daily. So what do we have in place, Mr. Johnson, for them? Do we have anything for them, like, hey, I don't know, something to help them cope with all this stuff they deal with daily?
Yeah, no, we don't have anything. What we have is, I tried to prepare these folks as best I could. When they were first hired and we had our first meeting, man, they were ready to go, let's go. Like she talked about, we're gonna save the world. And I was like, let's temper our expectations a little bit. This is a much different position than being in front of a classroom. You are gonna get to hear some things that you've never heard before that kids have gone through. And you're gonna start to think, these kids have been in my class and I didn't know the kind of lives that they had, right? So I tried to warn them about the difficult situations that they were going to learn about. But we also do, Caitlin Mayo, one of our program managers who's a mental health person, meets with us also. And she's very helpful on the kid and adult side of SEL.
Well, I don't know, maybe there is something that maybe just meeting them, maybe they already do meet with each other and talk about what's going on, but maybe just something extra that we can do. That, Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry it went that way, but
that's not in the budget for intervention coordinators.
Mr. Weimer?
Are you asking for it?
Not there. We have great insurance, thank you all, and they can
But
themselves of those types.
But on a serious note, I've dealt with, not dealt, but I participated in, I forget the name of it, where an outside vendor comes in, I forgot their name, and this was at the junior high level, and then they group the kids, and then the kids get to tell the leader of that group anything that they have in their mind, and you hear, I had a small group of 5, and everyone had a story. So I forget the name of that thing. Rachel's Challenge, yeah. So I can imagine you guys were having, the one whole high school each. So I really, I'm seriously saying it on a serious note. Is there anything that we can do for them? Maybe it's something to think about.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, we can be there for each other. We can talk to each other about the situations. We can talk about how we're handling it, those types of things. And if it ever gets, we have Caitlin who can support us in that.
She's in the back.
Yeah, she's here. She's supporting us from back there. Just in case the questions get too tough, we're going to talk to her after this one. But it is, and quite honestly, it's what people who work in alternative education, they get to see it every day too, and it's not easy.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, at the comp level, okay, what's that dialogue look like aside from an SST between you guys and 6 or 7 other teachers that this kid may have? Because obviously as teachers, we don't know everything about a kid. So once they go see you guys, is that dialogue then transferred to, hey, this kid's got this kind of background, and you may want to push back, or not push, pull back a little bit because there's issues going on here.
So Kelly hit the nail on the head. We're case managers. So as soon as we get that information, first off, we ask the student, hey, is it okay if your teachers know this? Because it's good insight, And 9 times out of 10, they're like, okay. And each teacher knows what's going on and like how to help and interventions that would be helpful for them. And then you go back and check in with those teachers and see if it's working. And if it's not, we brainstorm again. It's a constant ideation of things, just like this position. Constant ideation. We're figuring it out as we go.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Sanchez, maybe now you can help them create a more in-depth job description.
That's why he's in the suit and tie, guys. So thank you.
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate that Mr. Peterson had the vision for this and that Mr. Johnson's gone out and implemented it and that you guys are part of essentially a pilot program that you're shaping and this is one of the most impactful and exciting things I think we're doing in this district. So thank you for doing the hard work. We know this isn't easy, and parts of it I'm hearing are very rewarding, and parts are very challenging and depressing. And this is the real world that our kids are in. So, thank you all for taking this on and just being there to support our kids.
One of the goals of this position is also to have sort of a pipeline for administration. They get this opportunity to do this type of work and then hopefully move into an administrative role and take those experiences with them to that space. So, thank you all.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Good evening once again. I'm here to talk about another part of our MTSS program with Mrs. Kim Berman, and that is our Read 180 program. This is also a Tier 2 targeted intervention for kids who are behind on grade level reading. And this one actually ticks all the boxes of the vocabulary on the left. And Read 180 is a universal program that provides embedded supports and procedures for increasing student engagement, promoting positive behaviors, and motivating students to succeed. And Mrs. Kim Berman is here to tell you a little bit about the program, and so am I. So the first reading inventory test that we did in the district in 21-22 told us that we had 3,617 kids that were below basic. Which means they were significantly below grade level, and that we had 2,800 students that were at the basic level, which is still below grade level. This also told us that the kids that took the test, which was kind of district-wide, at the end of the year, the only kids that made growth in reading were proficient and advanced kids. Our below basic and basic kids, by being in our regular English courses, didn't make progress on literacy according to the reading inventory test, right? So, to it, we have to have a response. Our response is the Read 180 program. The reading inventory is a low-stress adaptive test. It gives you powerful performance data. It's administered to all kids at the same time. It takes 30 to 47 minutes. Sometimes it may take a whole period. Kids have the ability to skip questions, and it can be administered across all devices. The thing about Read 180 and it being such a powerful thing is the courses, we have an English 9 intensive and an English 10 intensive. They are A through G. This is not a support class where a kid loses ground if they do want to go to college. And that's an important intervention. So you don't have to take 2 English classes. You don't have to take a support class where you get just elective credit. They get A through G credit for the course. And we have this course at almost every campus in the district. The reading inventory is a college and career readiness test. It's one factor. Obviously, there's more. This test alone isn't going to tell you if you're ready for college or a career, but it is a factor. Viviana Fuentes helped create this career cluster, Lexile levels for careers, so that kids can see they get their reading inventory score. They get their Lexile level, and they say, I want to be in hospitality and tourism. Well, then we can set goals in the classroom for kids depending on where they are and where they need to go. Mrs. Berman.
Good evening. Board President Ham, board members, cabinet, and Ms. Rohrbeck. Oops. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the unique nature of the program because the structure is different than what we often see at the high school level. So first of all, it falls under the category of blended learning, meaning that there are pieces of teacher-directed instruction, there are pieces of student-led learning, and then there's, of course, the adaptive software piece as well, which is really vital because that's the part, that's the personalization of the learning. So that is where the test score is taken into account, and then the needs of the student are met individually. And so that, I think, is a really powerful model. Oops. This is just a little graphic showing what a typical day in one of our Read 180 classes might look like. So this curriculum is currently being used, like Mr. Johnson said, at the 9th grade level, at the 10th grade level on 2 of our sites, as well as in our functional communication classes throughout the district. So they work on a rotation model. This has been an implementation year, so that's important to remember as well, because by implementation I mean we're still not here all the way everywhere, you know, but next year will definitely be more of a focus on growth. This year's been a learning curve, but one thing that is unique is this rotation model. What I think of a lot is a day that we were actually at Golden Valley working with some of their teachers, and we were talking about this model, and it's not really intuitive for high school teachers. One of the associate principals there, she made the comment, it's the kidney-shaped table. And it took a minute for me to realize what that meant, but those who have elementary background or know about elementary classrooms, the kidney-shaped table signifies the small group instruction. So that's where the teacher, you know, or support staff are working with small groups of students. And again, there's a lot of personalization in that type of structure as well. So I always think of Carrie, and I always think of the kidney-shaped table now, because it is a really unique feature of this program. So on any given day, students are rotating between different stations. There is a whole group aspect of the program, so that's the teacher-directed, I should say teacher-facilitated. That's more accurate. And then there's the small group, so that can be led by the teacher, co-teacher, because our Read 180 classes have co-teachers working with them. They also have paraprofessionals, so any of those people can be leading that small group rotation. We're seeing anywhere from maybe 6 to 10 students, which is still higher, you know, than maybe what it might be in an elementary level, but it's working. And then lastly, the other rotations students move through on any given day in these types of classes are the online aspects of the program. So I mentioned there's something called the student app, which is the adaptive piece. There's also an independent reading where there is an online library of books that are set at the student's Lexile level. So they still have a wide range to choose from, but in that structure of learning, we're really just trying to promote a love of reading, because not many of them have that right now. They just don't have that like innate desire to read. So this is some data that we have based on our December administration. So the reading inventory, again, is assessing a student's reading level, and that comes back in a number we refer to as the Lexile. So I would still say this is preliminary data because we test them again in May, and all of the growth goals the students have set, you know, that the program has set for them, ideally those growth goals are met by the end of the year. So there's not an expectation that a student would have completed, you know, that full capacity yet, but we're still looking at some successful metrics here. So you can see this particular chart is our students who are in our Read 180 curriculum, and that means that they tested at a level in which they can decode, like they can look at a word and sound it out and they can read it, but they struggle with reading comprehension. So 72% of the students in the district had Lexile gains, just any kind of gain, which I think is really great. And then as the chart moves on, students who have already met their end of year goal, in this particular group, there is already 52%, which is really impressive because they still have, you know, throughout the rest of the semester. Students who have already met 2 times their goal, and then students who have improved on the CCR level, which is the College and Career Readiness Scale, and I'll show what those numbers look like as well. Now I will say, because it's an implementation year, unfortunately not all students in the Read 180 curriculum are part of this particular data. We're still working on that. There's certain criteria that the kids do have to meet in order for the company to run the data analysis the way they run it, but it still is representative of what we're seeing across the district. This chart is showing our students who are in our System 44 curriculum. So these students are still in the same class, but we are working in what we call an integrated model. If a student tested far below or below basic, then that has told us that not only do they struggle with reading comprehension, they actually struggle with decoding and fluency altogether. They have trouble with just even basic word recognition. And we see that a lot throughout the district as well. So they are in the same class. They are just working on the adaptive piece of the software. It looks different for them. Less focus on comprehension skills and more focus on decoding and just being able to read word recognition. So even in this curriculum, we're still seeing a lot of gain, as you can see. Students with Lexile gains, just in at all, any kind of gain, we want to recognize and celebrate at 62% across that group of students. And then you can see the other numbers as well. 27% who have already met their end of year goal. This is a district-wide chart, and again, and unfortunately does not include all students because we're still working on meeting that minimum criteria for the report to be run properly. But it is still, again, representative. So one important thing to note here is the first column where it says change in Lexile. So on average, we're looking at about a 67-point increase in their Lexile score. It's difficult to liken that to a grade level. There's not just a perfect grade level comparison. And part of that, there's many reasons for that. But if I had to compare it, that's like a little bit more than half a year of growth. So that's really great. And then again, students who have met their EOY, their end of year growth goal, we're at a really high percentage too, so we're proud of that. This chart is just showing you the college and career ready proficiency levels. So again, the Read 180 program doesn't so much focus on the comparison of exactly what grade level the student is at. It's more about the bands. So we're recognizing our students, again, who are in the below basic band. And one of the main goals for growth here is that we move them over to the right. I mean, every student has their own personalized goal based on their initial reading inventory score. And so if they scored lower, then their range of growth is going to be higher, right? We want them to try to grow more. If they scored a little bit higher, then their range of growth is a little bit lower, just because they don't have as much room that they need to grow. So again, goal here is just to as much as possible, be moving students to the right. One thing that Mr. Johnson has been reminding me of a lot and reminding our staff as well is the importance of rewarding growth and in any, at any level. So there are many sites who are recognizing their students. This is only one example. But at this particular school, at Atwater, they did go in print certificates for students that met a certain, that met their goal, and went in and gave them certificates and recognized them. I know that there's other sites that are recognizing students in different ways as well.
So our next steps include scheduling training for new Read 180 teachers for next year. Consider physical classroom environments, desks that allow kids to get into groups easily and to move around the room. Continue to brainstorm methods for growth of acknowledgement of the kids, because a lot of the kids that are in these courses, they're reading on the 4th and 5th and 6th grade level and might not have received a lot of rewards coming up. And part of MTSS and PBIS is saying, hey kid, I see you. You're engaging in the program, you're making growth, here's a certificate, here's a pin, let's phone call to mom, something like that. Train admin on how best to support the Read 180 teachers and the students. Work on methods to ensure 95% testing threshold. Work with feeder schools to get local Lexile data for better placement of incoming 9th graders. We have our own reading inventory test, right, that we can place kids with. But it's better if we get the scores that they had from the 8th grade so we can place them hopefully appropriately prior to getting to school. They take their reading inventory, and then we don't have as many kids to move around. Trying to not make that first week of school as disruptive as it could be if we solely relied on our Read 180 data. So school district use Aries. Clara Lopez, our CalPADS and Aries person, is reaching out and contacting these people and pulling this data in to our Aries. And lastly, brainstorm pedagogical strategies to make Lexile level data useful to English teachers in the classroom. So My second period takes the reading inventory test. I can look and see where all my kids are with their grade level reading, and then with the English curriculum, look at stories that are appropriate for those Lexile levels. You know, say I want to engage kids, so I'm on their level with this story. Say I want to push kids, I can say, okay, the average is about 1,100. I'm going to do something like 1,200 or something to kind of to push kids along in the middle at the end of the year. So, questions?
You talked about identifying kids, right? And so obviously from the feeder schools up. So when they enter, if I'm an incoming freshman, am I automatically, you have my score from the feeder school. Do I automatically have access to the tier 1 reading curriculum, or based on that score, I'm going to go to Read 180 or System 44?
Yeah, so we're going to look at your 7th grade CAS,
Okay.
which gives us a Lexile.
Right.
Most 8th grade give some sort of reading inventory test, so we'll probably have 3 scores from that. And then based on those, we'll kind of look at, is there a trend here? You know, and basically what we're looking for is below basic. We're looking for below basic across the board. And then we're going to retest you anyway. So you might get placed initially by those 4 pieces of data, and depending on your Read 180, we either go, yes, we got them in the right course, or we do need to move them.
And as you progress monitor this, do kids eventually, I'm assuming the goal is to graduate them out of Read 180 and back into regular ed classes where they have access to the tier 1 curriculum?
It's individual, but most of the time what we're looking at is this. The classes are A through G.
Right.
They're getting, you know, what they need if they want to stay on college track. So if you're in there your freshman year, you're gonna be in there for the whole year. And if you make incredible growth, right, really quickly, we know we probably misplaced you, and then we could say, hey, this kid was probably misplaced. Let's go ahead and move him out.
And then I saw the time constraints, 40 to 59 minutes. Do our regular bell schedules allow for that at every campus?
For the test, you mean?
Just for the whatever the
Oh,
class
for the
itself.
rotation?
The class itself, yes.
Yeah, and we had to adapt it, obviously, for our high school bell schedule.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
So am I correct in sort of my quick back of the napkin math is we've got 50% of our kids are below reading level? I mean, it's more like six. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was like, it was almost half and half, but then,
Okay.
It's not a good way to start.
Thank you. Yeah.
So Kim, so you talk about additional personnel or training personnel or hiring personnel for the upcoming school year. So is that in the works now as we talk about this? Because I mean, if we're meeting kids here at our district, then 65% are far below or basic, then there's a lot of room for concern. And so how do we start to strategize and support those kids now versus later?
Ms. Ballinger?
April 1st, April 1st.
She keeps telling me I'm a director. I keep doing that too. I'm like, oh, we got to do this, but Ms. Ballinger will take care of that. She's like, you're a director, Torrance. So the support comes in. I mean, listen, these folks over here give everybody their English sections, right? The kids are in those English sections, so we pull off so many for Read 180. The support piece is that extra person in the room. Ms. Berman is correct. High schools don't normally do the kidney-shaped table. You think about classroom management. I've got this group here, and this group here, and I'm here, but what's going on over there, right? So another adult in the room is extremely helpful for classroom management. We hope it's a co-teacher, but sometimes it's a para, and they do great work also. So the sections are there. Right. We might need more licenses, which might cost some money.
But I'm just thinking in terms like the comment about the 65%.
Yes.
So obviously somewhere those numbers are going to be humongous in some sections versus the regular ed or the tier 1 curriculum. So what do we start to do there to manipulate those numbers and bring in either supports, additional supports for those kids to help the teachers out? Because we're not all reading teachers.
True.
And I know that, and so at what point do we start to really strategize?
There has been some school districts that say, listen, you're either in pre-AP or you're in Read 180.
Right.
because you have enough clientele to kind of do that. But kids find a way. Kids, even though you're below grade level, you've been below grade level for a while, right? So you kind of adapt. You kind of pick up things to kind of get you by, to kind of stretch. And so that's kind of where we are right now. Right now we're going to look at below basic and some basic if we have enough licenses, and try to close the gap with those kids. Now in the regular English class, the hope is that the kids that can't access the core content are getting those tier 2 targeted supports through the English curriculum, the differentiation, the modifications, trying to get kids access. So it's going to fall upon those teachers to do things to help those kids who are behind that are in the regular English course.
So we're looking at additional support staff and kidney tables.
Basically, yeah.
Well, and you said we have it at all but at 2 high schools currently? Or it's at every high school?
Yosemite and Independence doesn't have those courses.
Okay. And we have how many sections roughly at each high school?
63 total, she says.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. Great work, you guys. Thanks for sharing.
Just really quickly, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to all the teachers that have come along in this process, the co-teachers and the paras too. I just feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say that. It's really been hard work. It's a very complicated and nuanced program, and it was not just something that you could open the book and walk up and do. And they've worked really hard. I even got an email today from a teacher, and it was titled, Read 180 Confessional. And I just love her dearly, but it was just that, that vulnerability and that willingness to ask questions and say what's working and what's not working and share their feedback. They just have really done a good job, and it's been really hard and challenging. So I just want to make sure that they are spoken about.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you for sharing. Okay. Dr. Weimer?
If the principals and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson would make their way towards the front, as I go through the first 2 slides, they will be able to share their ideas as we get to the 3rd slide. I'm not getting up, so you get to advance it for me. Go ahead. So we talked last meeting about the graduation rates, and the question that we were coming back with was, what are we doing that has resulted in graduation rates that are as good as they are? So this, again, is just a mosaic. It gives you a little bit of information on who we are as a district. You can see our enrollment, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, homeless, foster youth, and English learners. Go ahead. No. We did a comparison last time, so you can see the comparison right there. Our school district results in the different groups along with the county and the state of California. And again, we have the area of foster youth that we're looking at as our main area of lacking compared to others that we're going to be taking a look at. But you can see how we do well across the board on our different demographic groups. That gives you the 4-year adjusted cohort then by each high school. And so you can see most of them over the 95%. We've got Merced High at 92.9, and then we have our continuation schools. So this was the question that we left with at the end of the last one. Why are Merced Union High School graduations high? What are the things that we're doing? The first thing I have to point out is there's probably no one thing you can point to. There is no one thing that if we took that one thing away that all of a sudden our graduation rates would collapse on us or any of those types of things. It's a coordination of a lot of different things that we do, that we put together, that when you put those things together, give us the results that we're looking at. And we kind of broke those down into 3 different areas. The first one is make sure you have good data. If you're not recording things correctly, especially when you're at 95%, every single student and every person that is in that graduation rate matters to be able to move up or down. So you need to make sure that your data is right and accurate, and we took a few years to get that correct. But we do have pretty good data, and we do check that regularly to make sure that what we are recording accurately represents where students are, whether they made it through or not, whether they moved to out of state, whether they moved out of country, getting sure all of those things are there. So we're really looking at good numbers when we look at those things. The other part of that then is we have a review of data, and we can identify specific areas of concerns and acts on those data. So obviously foster youth will be the one that we're taking a look at now. We know that's our area because we've looked at the data. We can go find those students. We know where they're at. We can have those conversations and begin having discussions on what we're going to do with those. Many of the things you heard tonight are going to be the things that will work for those students, but we need to make sure they're on the radar and that we're tracking that to make sure we know who the students are and that they're getting those services and things that they need. Also, we've had conversations, and Marcus here at MUHSD High can talk about it as well. We had a conversation about every single student who did not make that graduation rate for them. So we went through one by one. What is this kid's story? What is this kid's story? What is this kid's story? Where are they at? What happened? What's going on? Not that you can necessarily go back in time and do anything with that, but it gives you information going forward when you have similar students who are falling into that same type of you hear that story again. You know what you're looking at, and you can try to address those particular issues and be able to move forward on those. So we do a very good job of making sure we have accurate data, looking at data, knowing who our kids are, and then being able to come up with some ideas and plans. The things that work for us then, I'm going to let the folks who walked up to the beginning here share a little bit more. I'm just going to hit the bullets, and then they can share some examples of those types of things that come to mind for them. But the two key pieces then, after you know who the students are and you know what you're working with and who needs to be having the extra attention, school engagement. One of the things that we talk about a lot that we do very, very well in this district, we have very few students who have dropped out and are still in the community. So dropouts usually have left us. They've gone somewhere else and we don't know what happened to them. They're not sitting here across the street just not going to school. And part of that is because we have CTE programs, activities, arts and music, athletics, nurtured heart approach, connections with staff that you heard from tonight as well. All of those types of things keep the students who are actually in our community coming to school. So it's not like dropouts are sitting here not coming to school. They've left. They've gone somewhere else. We have the students who are here engaged. They come to school. Student supports then, once you have them here, special education, homeless supports, ELD supports, health services, monitoring student academic performance, providing supports and remediation are a variety of things that we provide. You've heard a lot of those tonight with the MTSS system, and those types of things help those students once we get them on campus and keep them attached to things that we heard. You heard the stories tonight. You know, let's go find, let's get this student into the wrestling program. Let's get this student out into the track program. Let's get them involved so they don't fall off the radar and they keep coming to school. So those are the things that we broke it down, and now those who do it on a daily basis can share some of their ideas on what goes on their campuses and throughout the district that help with those areas.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Swartwood, principal at Golden Valley. Thanks for having me here tonight. I do want to expand a little bit on, Dr. Weimer talked about programs and people on campus, and I do want to expand a little bit on that. The people part is really more important than the programs part, so I'll start with that. The reason why we're seeing a consistently high grad rate in our schools is because of people like our counselors. And I'm including the people you heard from tonight in our ICs, our intervention coordinators, and our SSM, our student support managers, because they make meaningful connections with kids every day and with their parents and guardians. They set up SST, student study team meetings with these parents and these students. They provide social emotional health support at a tier 2 and a tier 3 level. It's people like our teachers who have signed up to be student success mentors. And student success mentors at our school means that they get a caseload, they get a list of students. Typically students that are in those subgroups you see on those graduation lists that don't always get as much support as some other groups, like our EL students, our foster youth, our McKinney-Vento students. And they check in with those students every week. It's teachers that have signed on and have jumped on board with Tier 1 social emotional curriculum like Character Strong. Teachers that have been dedicated to professional development so that we are providing student-centered lessons which make those more real and more relevant for students. So students are looking forward to coming to class. It's a classified staff that have jumped on board with nurtured heart approach. I know Dr. Reimer mentioned that, so that these staff members are approaching students in a way that it's connecting. It's not a military type direct approach. It's more of a different type of approach, which is working. It's an admin team that gets out of their office and gets in the hallways and gets in the classrooms to support these teachers and reinforce teachers in the classroom with our students. And then as far as programs go, definitely our programs are I think, are superior. I've been in this district a long time, and I've talked with people all over the state and out of state. Our district does a tremendous job with programs. CTE most recently has just exploded, and our kids get some great experience there. Our athletics programs, our band, our theater, our FFA, you name it. There's so many opportunities for kids to do things. If they just get involved in one thing, we see their success skyrocket. So we have that. Of course, we have credit recovery on campus. Our academic support classes are there for students that fail a class and now can make up that class without having to go to Sequoia or Yosemite. So we have that opportunity for them to keep them with us. And of course, summer school is a big help too, especially lately as the last couple of years when we've been able to make up more credits in summer school. So all of those factors, I think, lead to a better graduation rate.
I think for MHS, as was noted on there, we have actually one of the, or if not the lowest graduation rates, still higher against the state averages, but our averages are lower. I think a lot of the things that Mr. Swartwood is talking about, we are now in the process of looking at for ourselves. As I mentioned earlier, we had the first of many meetings to come this morning, actually the second of many meetings to come this morning as we look at our MTSS model and go through the WASC process on how we can develop some of the things that they're doing there at their site, specific to our site that works for us and for our staff and our kids. So I think that those things, obviously they work. I mean, if you look at what's happening, this community is not so large that the student populations are that much different between, from school to school. And so we had some very good discussion and some very good ideas that are starting to come across the table about things that we can and should do for our kids. So we're actually looking forward to addressing some of the same problems that we're having here and talking with our colleagues at other schools about how they're handling things that are going to enable us to also do this the right way. It's not something where we're looking at that 92.9% and saying, oh my gosh, let's figure out how we can doctor this and fix it. We want to actually do it the right way because in actuality, 20, 30, 40 kids impacts that number tremendously. So what are we doing or what can we do to positively impact 20 or 30 more kids to get that number where we want it to be? So it's not about the number, it's about the experience we're providing for our kids. So I don't want to repeat a lot of what Kevin said, but we can do that.
In the special education world, one of the big things we moved to several years ago is instead of having our special day class students work towards a certificate of achievement, which meant that after high school, they got to complete high school by just meeting their IEP goals. Instead, we moved to more rigorous instruction. We pushed them into mainstream classes, provided support, and we were able to start issuing diplomas to students, but then makes them eligible for financial aid and vocational programs after high school. So that has been a key to increasing that percentage as well.
This is not my favorite place to be. For some of the subgroups up there that are of special attention, we've started providing extra support. So if we're talking about our African American groups, there's more support on campuses. The establishment of the BSUs on 4 of our 6. Next year, we're looking at adding another one. And that provides our students with college goals. We have taken them on college trips, taken them to different conferences, and the focus of those conferences have been to make sure that they can see themselves at college. And you can't get there without graduating. So for that group, that's what we're doing. For our foster youth, which is what we're going to be in DA for next year, we're going to take that model like the ICs because on average, every campus only has roughly 10. So we're going to add those to the caseloads of the IC so that they can get some more special, individualized, let's talk about it attention. For ELD, last year we started doing more events with UC Merced. There's the EP program. So we opened up college tours. We went out to UC Merced. We also had parent meetings in which we specifically talked about what does A through G mean. And that, I believe, did increase some of the attainment of our students. I think those are all my groups.
Yeah, if I can add, there are several programs that we have that are pretty unique. Like the Saturday Academy, for example. We have assets after school. We have our summer school program, which is always well funded, and those are opportunities that not a lot of school districts, provide to our students. I know Principal Swartwood talked about our career technical education. If you recall, because I do, about 5 years ago, when we were implementing a CTE graduation requirement. If you remember the number of teachers, the number of parents, and even some students that were coming to the podium talking about how to opt out. This is not for me. Well, we set up that process and we have board policy. There's criteria now for students to opt out. We don't have anyone opting out. I think the value in making learning relevant for our students is an incredible piece. It's our identity, it's who we are. And I think that is important that we anchor the conversations that we have. And when we talk about our graduation rates, that's the mantra, right? In the Merced Union High School District, you're gonna come in and you're gonna get a relevant education. And that doesn't mean math. Students don't come to school for math. They come for band, you heard that tonight. Basketball, you saw that tonight. For all those different and unique programs, which are very, very well funded in our district. So we like to use the term, I know in our ag programs you see a return on the investment. I think that this is the return on the investment that you see with the graduation rates when we invest money in these different programs and different opportunities. And I think a lot of times we focus too much attention on one specific program and say, what's the return on the investment? How are students doing in that program? But I think it's a culmination of everything. We have a full menu of opportunities for all of our students. And lastly, and I'll end it with this, leadership matters. It starts at the top with our superintendent, works its way all the way through to the principal, setting the tone and the culture on that campus. Leadership matters.
Hi, I'm Chaz Jolly, principal at Livingston High School. Just want to take a moment, too, to highlight what Livingston does in terms of this. We've had open conversations with staff, hey, could we figure out why do we think we have such great numbers at Livingston High School? And it really comes down to a human element. We have counselors that really do follow kids, and we have teachers that are willing to work with students. And those are things that won't show up here, and they're not things that can be written down. For example, we'll have people, in the past we've had home visits. We need you to be here, we need to get this done, we're gonna make a plan with you, you're gonna make it. If that means I need to walk around the track with you and we're gonna do a couple miles today, or we're gonna tag in and get somebody else to walk with you, we're gonna walk those miles. But those are individual things made, and those are elements that you can't really capture in data and you can't capture as a general practice, but you can say that you have a very caring staff at Livingston High School, and they're willing to go the extra mile in lots of different ways. And so that includes the teachers, it includes our counselors especially, putting a lot of energy towards that. So I just wanted to add to the list here that that's one reason Livingston High School has such a wonderful outcome for students.
Ms. Austin, you mentioned DA for next year. And you said about 10 kids per campus or 10 kids per campus district-wide?
About 10 kids per campus. We have 82
82?
current students, but, you know, foster youth is very mobile, but 82 today.
And it's DA because of the graduation itself?
It's,
or other?
no,
Okay.
it's foster youth across the board.
Okay. But it's because they're not making the graduation requirement or because they're just not meeting other academic needs or whatever that we have in place?
For the graduation rate is just the graduation, but they are falling behind in the academics as well as the school climate functions too.
And then as far as the DA, and I'm not sure this is a question for Ms. Austin or maybe Dr. Aguilar, on the DA, is that support coming from the county or is that funding coming from the county to support the work of DA to target our foster youth?
It's a culmination of both.
How much?
I don't have a dollar figure offhand, but it is a culmination of both. And I'll give you an example. For our migrant program, for summer school, I know it's $130,000 because I know Ms. Ballinger was just asking me about it today, so that's how I have that figure offhand. We use all of that for our summer school program that we have. So, and those are DA dollars. So it's a blend of both.
We had a meeting the other day with the county. Director Andrews came over, and we had all the principals in the room and one more administrator to begin to ideate on how best to work through this process and change the trajectory for the foster youth that are having issues, you know, in our district. And it was a great meeting. We're getting ready to work on root causes and then implementation for next year of the plan to deal with our DA situation.
Do we have any plans in place now to address the issue right now? Because we have foster youth now that are already fitting that mold.
Yeah.
So do we have something in place to support them, to help them get there?
It was a great meeting because where we started was this, and we believe this. We were either, it's graduation rate, suspension rate, and CAS scores. So part of the problem is finding out who the kids are. Because I believe that, you know, there were kids that were suspended or that weren't on our radar that were foster youth that we didn't know. Because the state puts in, you know, the information, and if they mess up or spell a kid's name wrong or don't put it in, then we have no idea who we're dealing with. So back to Dr. Weimer's comment is we got to start with clean data. And so working with Sandra Stevens and the county to just find out who these kids are, and then let's go forward with the plan. Preliminarily, somebody at the site has to be in charge of these kids and checking in with them on a regular basis, breaking down barriers and building a relationship with them.
Who currently oversees that? I think there was at some point in time, a couple years back, that was Norma Cardona that was following up that work, right? So who's overseeing that? Is that under Ms.
Dr. Austin.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, she's taking that over. The last topic on grad rates, I want to say this. You're responsible, the board. I don't want to miss the fact that it's your efforts and your support of the kind of things that we want to do in this district that added to that graduation rate. So I want to say thank you for everything that you do to support us so that we can, in turn, support the kids. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Last chance. If there are no other questions, that's what we've got.
Thank you. Mrs. Johnson is going to present to us on student drug use, discipline, and intervention.
Good evening. According to the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychology, teenage marijuana use is at its highest level in 30 years, with 4 out of 10 high school students reporting they have tried it. The reasons for use include curiosity, peer pressure, peer acceptance, as well as self-medicating for things such as anxiety, stress, and depression. Unfortunately, according to the CDC, 3 in 10 of these people who use marijuana have what is called marijuana use disorder or addiction. We are noticing an increase in marijuana use, especially vaping, at MUHSD. Between August 2018 and February 2019, We had 256 documented drug incidents district-wide. This year, in the same time period, we have had 465. So what is our response when we have drug infractions? On a first offense, we house a student in the intervention center for the remainder of the day. We give them a Suite 360 module to complete around the topic of risks of drugs, and we offer information about RAFT. On a second offense, they are again housed in the intervention center for the remainder of the day. They are then referred to our UDA program for 3 days. They become ineligible for activities for 3 weeks, and we again offer RAFT information. On a third offense, students are suspended home for the remainder of the day. We send them to UDA 2 for 3 days. An SST is held to try to get to the root cause of drug use. They become ineligible for activities for 6 weeks, and we offer RAFT information. On a fourth offense, we suspend and or recommend for expulsion, and as part of the rehabilitation plan, they are asked to complete RAFT. Our interventions around drug use include drug education for all 9th grade students in their health class. This includes alcohol, tobacco, and drug education, including abuse of illegal and legal substances such as prescription drugs, information about the physical and mental effects of drugs and the risks associated with them. We also have our Understanding Drugs and Alcohol program known as UDA. This year, 196 students have completed one of the UDA programs, which are run by Darren Leonardo, who is our intervention counselor. He provides assessment and counseling and makes referrals to more intensive services when needed. We have UDA 1 and UDA 2 listed in our discipline policy, but Darren has also added an UDA 3 for some students who need additional intervention. During their time at UDA, students are taught a variety of topics, including risks, peer pressure, impulse control, resilience, acceptance of responsibility, and asking for help. After students attend UDA, Darren sends information back to the school site about the student, and the student also meets with the Sierra Vista clinician a minimum of 2 times to see if counseling services need to be implemented. He may also make referrals to RAFT at that time. The Recovery Assistance for Teens, otherwise known as RAFT, is run through Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, and they have 2 programs. The first is their Education or Early Intervention and Prevention Services. This consists of screening, assessment, and referral, weekly group counseling sessions, random drug screening, and evidence-based principles to motivate and support positive decision-making. The second program is their treatment program and is a 3-tiered program for teens who meet diagnostic criteria for substance abuse or dependence as outlined by the DSM. Referrals can be made by Darren Leonardo and or associate principals at the site. We are currently working on an MOU to provide this service on campuses so we don't have the barrier of transportation. That program includes all of the same services as the early intervention program, but adds treatment, planning, individual and group counseling, family support services, and aftercare support. Finally, I have invited Mr. Swartwood and Mr. Knott to discuss where they are seeing the drug problems on campus and what they are doing to address it.
Hi again. So a couple of things Christy wanted me to talk about. During the 21-22 school year, that was the first year back from the hybrid COVID times, right? We noticed we had a problem with students in the hallways. And that problem, students in the hallways, brings up a lot of other issues, including vaping. Now, they're not running around vaping in the hallways. They're in the bathroom, right? Because that's where there's no cameras in the bathroom. There's nobody in there monitoring the bathroom 24 hours a day during the whole day. So there's liaisons, of course, going back and forth through there. But they figured that out. So we need to get a handle on that because kids out of class meant that they weren't being engaged. If they're not being engaged, they can't learn. If they can't learn, they're not going to get a diploma. It's just a big effect. So what we did was we looked into a digital hall pass system. And this digital hall pass system is called the Minga app, M-I-N-G-A. So we purchased Minga. And there's a couple other campuses that use Minga. What I really wanted it for was the hall pass system. And what that does pretty much is this. We give the students responsibility they get to make 3 restroom passes a day. They can use up to 3 restroom passes a day. That's besides the break and lunch and all those times when they can use the restroom. So the process is pretty simple. It works like this. Hey, Mr. Pust, I'll use Mr. Pust since he's here. Can I use the restroom? And if the teacher's in a situation where there's he or she is not giving some instruction or doing some work with students can say, yeah, go ahead and make your pass. They get on their phone, or if they don't have a phone, get on their Chromebook, make a pass. That pass starts as soon as they hit start, and they're supposed to hit start before they leave, which is also teacher directed. They hit start, they walk out. If they don't have a phone to bring with them to show their pass, that's okay, because every liaison and every administrator on campus, and every teacher for that matter, can see on their phone who should be or should not be in the hallways. So as a student walks by, and the liaisons already know all their names, they can look at their phone and say, hey, hey, Kenny, where's your pass? Oh, I didn't hit start. Go back, do it again. All right? Or, hey, Kenny, you got a minute left. Get to class, because it's a timed pass. This system, and really big, huge thanks goes to our teachers for jumping on board and backing this up and supporting us on this, because they use it to perfection, has really changed our hallways. And since it's changed our hallways, we have less kids in the bathroom. Now, we still have vaping going on our campus. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we don't. But it's very much improved with that process. The other thing Ms. Johnson asked me to talk about was vape sensors. We tried using vape sensors in our restrooms. It was pre-COVID. We tried it. And maybe they have better sensors now, but the sensors we were using were not effective. If a student put hairspray on their hair in the bathroom, the vape sensors would go off. If a kid went in and put Axe on them after PE, the vape sensors went off. They were going off every few minutes, and we found out that, well, we're not catching anybody vaping. We're just running ourselves ragged trying to figure out what's going on in the bathroom. So that did not work for us. So again, maybe there's better sensors at this time that would work, but that process did not work for us. So I'll pass this over to Marcus.
Thank you. As Mr. Schwartwood said, most of the issues that we're having, they're happening in the restroom. And so one of the ways that we try to combat it was, we have liaisons posted in front of the restrooms monitoring who goes in and who goes out, and kind of keeping track of not letting crowds go and hang out in the restroom. But hey, there's already 5 people in there. We know we got 5 stalls, so until somebody comes out, we don't need to go hang out in the restroom. That kind of works a little bit. It also creates issues, obviously, with time, students not being tardy to class and things like that. So really our struggle right now is when a student goes into the restroom and actually goes into a stall, there's no way we can actively monitor what they're doing. Even if we have somebody standing inside the restroom, we still wouldn't be able to monitor what they're doing. So that's been a challenge for us, and we frankly, we haven't had an answer for that. That's not something that we can control. As Mr. Schwartwood said, it's not something that's happening a lot in the hallways. We're not seeing kids walking down the hallways, actively doing this type of thing. There are certain areas on campus that we've had to kind of step up our monitoring on. They find the little nooks and crannies in certain parts of the campus that don't get as much traffic, so we've had to kind of establish rotations to try to get to those areas of campus more frequently, especially like back out, if you're familiar with our campus, out back behind the portables back there. We kind of get to get some foot traffic back there at certain times of the day to make sure kids aren't kind of hiding out back there. But really, it's more, for us, what we've noticed is the kids that we have had to deal with this issue with, it's a problem for them. It's not something that they're just kind of, oh, I just wanted to try it this one time. It's become a habit, and in some cases an addiction. So I think we're gonna have to find other ways to address the root of the problem and not just catching them. I think that's not the answer for us. So that's kind of what we're seeing on our campus.
Any questions?
So I oversee the drug and alcohol program at East Campus, and I was talking to Mr. Leonardo, who runs the program, and I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm like, Olay, these numbers are, they're getting up there. I go, what can we do to be proactive? And he looked at me, and he's like, proactive? He said, proactive is left. We are getting freshmen who are addicted and need treatment. He does the education piece, he does the screening piece, staying on the drugs are bad, there's your brain on drugs, this sort of thing. He goes, they need treatment. And a lot of kids, he said, they're starting in the 6th grade. So another piece of working with the feeder schools is getting the information on, you know, which kids have been in trouble before or have an issue, so that we don't have to wait and find out when they get to high school and they're vaping in the hallways. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Yeah, just a quick question. I know the perception is that, students have to put this app on their phone, and they have to use their phone. But you did mention it, Mr. Swartwood, that it's phone or Chromebook. So is it clearly communicated at the sites, the students as well as the parents, that a student does not have to use their phone? It might be more convenient, but they could use their Chromebook, and that the Chromebook doesn't have to be taken to the restroom with them, because the liaison can see, hey, I see Mr. Swartwood is, you know, has a pass, and so forth.
So absolutely communicated. So at the beginning, at Roundup, we started the process of Minga and the use of the Minga app and how it was going to work. All of those questions came up right away from parents with, why would I take my kid's phone away when they get in trouble? What then? You know, or my kid doesn't have a phone. What then? So here's how we solve the issue, and it works really, really well. Every kid can get a hard ID copy if they want it. Every kid. You want a hard copy of an ID? Here it is, the old school way, right? Because we have kids, they have to show their ID every time they come in gate in the morning. So if they have a phone, they just show their Minga ID. If they don't have their phone, or they get their phone taken away, they can have a hard copy ID. So we took away that issue. You don't need to have your phone for an ID, right? Making a pass on Minga, do not need a phone. It could be Chromebook, and they always have a Chromebook, or there's a loaner Chromebook if they didn't have theirs that day, right? So there's no excuse to not be able to make a pass. So yeah, it's well communicated, it works well, it's been smooth, and parents are on board with it. They like it too.
We are also using Minga. We're probably a year behind what they're doing at GV, but we do have it implemented here, and we are trying to incorporate it in much more than just this. The app itself and the platform itself can do a lot of things. So a lot of the engagement type stuff we were doing also runs through Minga. And as Mr. Swartwood was saying, our campus liaisons have become very proficient. They carry around an iPad. Some of them like to use their phones. Just making sure kids that are out are supposed to be out. And it does impact, for this campus, which is across the street at lunchtime, you know, kids going off lunch, it also makes that process a lot easier and a lot faster too. When they scan out, they can use either Minga app or the hard copy ID. So we use it for a lot of things. You know, kids showing up to football games, they get points for it. They get, you know, activity points for it, things like that. So it's helped us and is productive. But in terms of the pass system, it definitely is effective.
Thank you for sharing this data. It's, I don't know, you don't show up to school drunk, right? You don't drink in the bathroom. You should be high on campus, but it's a greater problem as you're sharing, right? If kids are coming in with an addiction, or it starts in the home, but it is I know, a giant disruption on every campus, right? And, you know, we are hearing from the intervention coordinators and all of the great things that they're doing. And if this wasn't something that they had to, it's just that, like, if we could focus on more positive things to help our kids, I don't know, I'm probably not making a lot of sense, but it's just it's one of those, it doesn't have an obvious solution. And I have heard that some of the liaisons just feel like glorified bathroom monitors, which, right, that it was never the intent of their job. Anyway, so thank you for your work on it, and I look forward to more ideas. This time, we get to hear from the employee associations, and Mr. Pest, will you be speaking on behalf of DTA tonight? We will welcome your comments.
Long board meeting is when Alan is absent, huh? Good evening, President Ham, board members, and in Alan's absent, Superintendent Aguilar and Cabinet. So tonight, I would like to say that socially appropriate behaviors for students must be made a priority in our district. And the presentation of the multi-tiered system is enlightening, and what we have started doing is wonderful. With that said, we must not forget the incident that happened at El Capitan. These things don't happen the day or overnight. It happens with a long list of things that go on. In particular, just the lack of meaningful corrective behaviors. And the intervention coordinator is a great step in the right direction. But we can and should and need to do more. That is just the very beginning. We have monies coming in from community school grant that, whoops, we'll get that later. From the community schools grant, and I think we're going to apply for more. Sorry. We should put that money to use in terms of connecting with these students that are reachable. But we also need to consider the campuses where students aren't reachable. That is a reality that we live in. And if we're hearing things on the DTA side that we don't have room at Alt-Ed, we need to start considering we need to make more room. And we need to make those Alt-Ed sites more meaningful. So that is something that the DTA would like to partner with the district on, and I know it's not going to be an issue. And speaking with all of them, they feel the same. Excuse me. So I'm confident in that we will make movement here. And you can be confident that I will come gripe to you if we don't. So thank you, and that is all.
Thank you. I hope you're healing well. Yes, many apologies for the long meeting tonight. Do we have any comments from the CSEA? No. Okay. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Mrs. Ham, do I read the donation list now or later?
While we're
Or is it
voting, or after we vote. Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. Trustee Jayasinga, would you like to acknowledge the donations?
Yes. Thank you. On behalf of the trustees and the district, I would like to thank the following donors for their generous donations. Juan Vasquez, Socorro Vasquez, Teresa Guerrero, Maria Elena Diaz, and those 4 donations are to be used for the Ariana Bonita Bobadilla Memorial Scholarship, the Atwater Winton Lions Club and California Lions Camp Foundation for their generous donation, as well as Cindy Ramirez, and whose donation is to be used for the Eddie Guerrero Scholarship. Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Call for the vote. That passed 4-0. I abstained. And now we move to the action agenda. We have the option as to elect a CSBA delegate. The California School Board Association requests school boards elect representatives from their sub-region to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Delegates serve a 2-year term beginning April 1st, 2023 through May 31st of 2025 and meet twice a year to conduct business. Although no nominations were received, our board may write in the name of a board member to fill the seat. Ballots must be submitted to CSBA postmarked no later than March 15th, 2023. Do we have someone who would care to be a delegate? If not, then we will not write someone in, and we will move on to board approval of certificated assignments.
Good evening. Under the provisions of regulations from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, the Board of Trustees must take action on each request for a variable term waiver. The Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires that the waivers be requested for individuals not fully credentialed in a specific area. The district's practice is not to request waivers except in areas where there is a shortage of available candidates. At this time, we are requesting one waiver in the area of mathematics. Metzley Enriquez was offered a math position at Atwater High School. She is currently enrolled in a credential program at the University of Phoenix, working towards obtaining her single subject credential. The superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the waiver as submitted for the 22-23 school year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second. I have a question also before we vote. So this is strictly credentialing, it's not units.
Correct.
Where is the individual in the program? Because I think we approved this one last year too, didn't we?
No, we just hired her for this year.
For this year?
It might have been for something else for last year, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I can double check on that for you, Tiffany, though, and let you know.
Call for the vote. Five zero, yes.
Thank you.
You're up again, Mrs. Ballinger.
I'm up again. The 2023-24 and 2024-25 district calendars have previously been approved on February 9th, 2022. After further review of the February recess week, MUHSD proposed to the feeder districts moving the February week recess to the third week in February. This suggestion was made for two reasons. One, to create a more balanced time frame from the winter recess to the February recess and the February recess to the spring recess. And two, the third week in February coincides with the President's Day holiday that most parents and employers receive. The proposed changes are the following. For 23-24, move the February recess to February 19th to 23rd. It was the 12th through 16th originally. And for 24-25, move the February recess to February 17th through 21st, and it was the 10th through 14th before. All feeder districts and both union presidents have been notified of these changes and no opposition was identified. In order for the Lincoln holiday to be observed on a date other than that identified in California Education Code, the acting school board must adopt a resolution that identifies the alternative calendar holiday. Board adoption of resolution number 10-22 would allow the district to observe Lincoln's Day on February 23rd, 2024, and for the 23-24 school year, and the resolution number 11-22 would allow the district to observe Lincoln's Day on Friday, February 21st, 2025 for the 24-25 school year. The superintendent submits the revised 2023-24 and 24-25 school calendars for first reading with possible adoption and recommends the approval to adopt resolution numbers 10-22 and 11-22, holiday observance, which will allow the district to observe Lincoln's Day on the alternative day for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading, waive the second reading for the calendars for the next 2 school years.
I second that motion.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. That also passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ballinger. Dr. Weimer, home to school transportation plan.
Before I move on to that, I want to thank you for making my birthday a holiday.
Happy belated birthday.
AB 181 has established a reimbursement for part of transportation expenses. It does not include the cost for the buses or the White Fleet, but it does include our regular costs for home to school transportation. Part of the requirements for that is we must adopt a plan which basically takes our current transportation policies and puts them into a format and a plan adopted by the state, and that we required input from different stakeholder groups on that plan. Basically, nothing has changed from what we currently operate and what we're currently doing, so we still have the 2.5 mile. We provide free transportation to anybody who is outside of that or anybody who crosses a dangerous crossing or a dangerous situation on their way to school. We also have various programs that will assist students if they're within that 2.5, if they do have issues with transportation that they need help with. So we do have, each of our schools usually gets bus tokens from their Title I that they can hand out to students that are within that 2.5 miles. We have transportation for special education students. We have transportation for foster youth students who might not be living close to our schools. And we also have various other transportation that can be done through the homeless program or through the Title I programs at our site. So we do need to approve the transportation plan so that we can submit that. It will get us an annual reimbursement of about $2.7 million. Superintendent recommends the board adopt the MUHSD Transportation Services Plan.
So moved.
I second that.
Are there any further questions? Call for the vote. That passed 5-0. Dr. Weimer, you're up again. The second interim report.
And I do, before we move on, I do want to thank Ms. Hermosillo, our Director of Transportation, along with Ms. Austin and Ms. McCauley, who are about to run out the door now, who did do the work on putting that plan together. So I just get to sit up here and wave. They're the ones who actually did all the work.
Thank you. It was done so well, we had no questions.
And we will be going very quickly through the second interim. Nothing has really changed since the first interim. So it is stuff that you pretty much have seen before. I will highlight 2 areas that are not included when we get to that particular slide. And again, the key is making sure that we see when we do the actual budget coming up in June, that that out year is balanced, because the third year that will start to show as in the multi-year projection when we get to the budget, it won't show today because we're still in second interim. But when we get to budget, that last year needs to be balanced because that'll be the year where we no longer have the one-time funds. So we do have our average daily attendance. We see that we are held down to this lower number here. That's still part of the COVID relief. We are expecting that to go back up as we see future years as ADA starts to increase along with our enrollment. And go the right We are looking at total LCFF funds of $161 million. We see the COLA that we gave out this year, the different pieces that make up the assumptions. Total revenue then, and again, this is one of the last years that we get all of that one-time money, and then we spend it over the next 2 years. So you do see a rather large income of 253. That is not normal for us. That does include large amounts of one-time money. The expenditure assumptions, it includes the 1.5 step-in column. It includes the salary increases and health and welfare increases that we gave. It has all of the transfers into the special reserve funds. So for a total of $229 million with total expenditures. So again, you'll see the adopted budget, which didn't have any of the one-time money because we didn't have it yet. Then you go in here and we do, by the first interim, we had all of the one-time monies that we were going to be receiving. Second interim, you see very little difference between those two. We will then be spending that down over the next couple of years. So this is the number right here that we will want to see when we do the budget to make sure that that stays where it's at. Because as you'll see right here, we are going from second interim to the proposed budget to the projected budget for 23-24 and 24-25. This is where you'll see deficit spending because we are spending down that one-time money that we have received last year and this year. So you will see that number start to go down. 24-25 is the last year that that's there, so we need to make sure that that 25-26 year is balanced when we get to the June budget, because that will be the first year where we're operating without all of these increases of one-time funds and expenditures of the one-time funds. Shows us the increase for STRS and PERS. The expected COLAs are already wrong. We will get the revised for those in the May revise. The 8.13 they are expecting, I'm sorry, oh, he already left, but I was going to, unfortunately, it's probably not going to stay at 8.3. It's probably going to be down in the mid-6 range is where we're expecting that COLA figure to actually fall. The 3.54 is kind of an expected one for the year after. And then we have our beginning balances for our funds. Again, student activities is just passed through. We take the ASB funds at the end of the year, we put them in, just so that we can account for them in the budget and the audit, and then we take it right back and give it back out to the student body funds. We have the adult education, which is the consortium, so that's not actually our money. Child Development Center is over at East Campus, and we use funds that we transfer in there to pay for that. Cafeteria, most of the money comes from reimbursements that we get for the meal program. And then the transportation, this is not our regular transportation fund and cost. This is the money we have set aside for White Fleet and buses. Deferred maintenance, we still have some money sitting in that particular account, and that will help with HVAC systems and other repairs and things. We have some projects. We approved one tonight. The architectural design for the largest bathroom at Golden Valley High School will be renovated this summer, and so part of that will come out of that fund. Capital facilities is the developer fees. That's where we do all of our portables. Comes out of that. So we do have a significant amount of money in there to be able to do the more portables that we're going to do this summer and some more the next summer if we continue to need those. Special reserves is also where we're going to have the last of the brick work out at El Capitan, and then several of the projects that we've been talking about between the pools and the other projects as well. Special reserve is where we have our basically reserves. And so we keep a 10% reserve between the general fund balance and Fund 17. So between those two, that's where we keep a 10% reserve. And then the Fund 20 is OPEB. So anything that we do that is for post-employment benefits, like offering a PARS retirement incentive, that comes out of that particular one, and paying for retirees' health care benefits until they qualify for Medicare. Have to put this on there. We don't get to touch that money. It's not ours. It's part of the bond, and it's kept at Merced County. And we do have a part of positive certification. We can very easily pay our bills. Superintendent recommends Board of Trustees approve the positive certification, adopt the proposed revisions to the general fund budget as submitted, adopt proposed revisions to the various other funds of the district as submitted, and accept the criteria and standards summary review, which is the 100-some-odd pages that goes along with the report.
Is there
Motion to approve the second interim.
a second?
Second.
Are there any further questions? Call for the vote. That passes 5-0.
And still me.
Still you.
I get to take us home tonight. So finishing out the agenda, we do have our audit. So luckily, this is earlier than it was last year, although it is still late. Usually we do the audits in January, but because of COVID and other things, the auditors for the last couple of years have requested from the state to be able to have extensions, and they had one again this year. But we do now have the audit for last year, and so the board will need to approve that. There were no findings again this year. So we have no issues that were brought to us for the auditors. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees accept the annual performance audit report ending June 30th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I second that.
Any questions? Call for the vote. I feel like I've finally gotten a rhythm tonight, and we're done. Sorry for the rocky start. Thank you, Leslie, for trying to coach me. And that passed 5-0 as well. Okay, now we are moving along to communication, information, future agenda items. Julio? Do you have anything?
Sure.
Should we convene into closed session? No, do this first, okay. Not everybody has to stay then, huh? Julio?
Sure, okay. So first of all, thank you for your time here, Dr. Aguilar. And congratulations on your new job. I do want to say that you've always been one who's answered my text messages, calls, emails, you know, as soon as you can, most of the time right away. So I really appreciate that, and appreciated it when I was newer as well. You had a lot of answers for me right away, and sometimes even last minute, right before the board meeting, I had questions and you would answer them. So I really appreciate that. I, as a board member here, am going to miss you here, but I'm sure hopefully we stay connected. Congratulations and see ya. So, having said that, Ms. Ballinger, congratulations to you as well for taking on this new role. We heard lots of great reviews about you and that you were the right person for this job right now. So congratulations, Ms. Ballinger. And also want to congratulate all the students on the achievements that they've done. There's way too many that if we start mentioning, we're going to forget. And I don't like forgetting people, so I try not to specifically point out people or groups. But of course, congratulations to the FFA teams from all the schools, the bands, basketball like the ones we had tonight, academic decathlon, soccer, and even Atwater High School had a student on Jeopardy. So it's the district is doing lots of great things. So congratulations to the students and the adults who coach and guide them. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio. Mrs. Pickle? Thank you, Mrs. Ham. I really enjoyed the presentations, recognitions portion of the meeting, and really look forward to hopefully having that be a regular part of our meetings. It's great to hear from the kids and recognize them for their achievements, as well as the staff members who support them. Congratulations to Mrs. Ballinger, and congratulations to Dr. Aguilar, and look forward to hearing about the great things that are going to be happening in Riverbank. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes, ma'am. This question is going to be more directed, I guess, now that Dr. Aguilar is transitioning out towards Mrs. Ballinger. You know, and it's around Momentum and the plans for Momentum moving forward. You know, to have data presented to me last week at a meeting, you know, shocked me with the amount of, you know, I guess, courses that are being given to students for the opportunities to be online, have access to, I guess, other technology at their side to quickly move through that Momentum course. You know, obviously was a shocker to me. That I'm hoping that, and I'm sure that that wasn't the intent with the Momentum as we were going through the COVID period. And now that we're back from the COVID period. And what we can do to kind of change that process. You know, I'm all for kids. I'm all for kids having those opportunities. I'm all for kids taking advantage of these extra programs that we have to offer to help them, you know, pass a course if they struggled for whatever reason through a course. But I'm also not for a kid to sit behind a screen for 1 or 2 days, respond quickly, and passes the course. Where we have kids that are sitting behind, in front of a teacher for 90 to 180 school days, and the kid's making up a course in 2 to 4 days. I'm surprised that we're not getting more pushback from DTA as far as how that was allowed to unfold. You know, that I'm hoping moving forward that we have I guess a better process in place to avoid this. Only because I think truly best first instruction is the way to go, and that only happens when you're in front, when you have a teacher in front of you. And so I'm not sure what our plans are, Mrs. Ballinger, moving forward, if we're going to address it short term, or if we're going to address it summer, or address it for the long term moving forward. You know, obviously for me, it's not about changing the rules in the middle of the game. You know, so do we allow it to exhaust and run its course through the 2022-23 school year, and then start from scratch for the summer moving forward? I'm not sure what those plans are. So. Okay, so obviously we have kids in those at Momentum now, for whatever reason. We have kids that could possibly benefit, and that's my concern, could benefit right now to meet a graduation requirement, you know, because these are the rules that we laid out, that I'd hate to pull the carpet from under them, and they don't get that opportunity to graduate. So when we talk about changing the rules mid-game, it's gonna impact some kids.
What I will say to that is we're not going to change the rules. We're simply going to reinstitute the way the program was supposed to work.
Moving forward in the summertime for the next school year or now? That's my concern.
My understanding is fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter. So kids will be given that opportunity to kind of finish off where they're at, and then no one else will be allowed to be taking Momentum, or is it one course, or?
Momentum will be offered in the way that it was supposed to be offered. Which is oversight. I want to make sure I speak correctly, but Cheryl? At Momentum, at the time that we purchased it, I think people liked it because the answers weren't on the internet, and now they are. And but I think we're going to address that with some of the patches that we've put into place.
I will put more information in the Pulse for you to see the greater detail that's coming in with the short-term fourth quarter fix and the long-term intentional changes that'll take place with some goals that are going to achieve greater accountability, not over-enrolling a student, giving them manageable amounts in addition to the course load that they normally take. So there are going to be some limits in that way imposed per quarter, allowable achievements, and just the way in which the program is accessed and kids are enrolled is changing a little bit, and that's effective fourth quarter.
And I'm
So-
assuming that's gonna be a plan that's gonna be deployed district-wide?
Yes.
District-wide, but
Okay.
we don't want to get in too much more of a conversation about it because it's not agendized.
I'll share some information that's currently in draft form that DTA looked over and provided feedback and some questions of my office. The program administrator, Erica Carty, who works with me in my office, oversees our digital curriculum platforms. And so we have that ready to enact in just a couple weeks.
So look forward to that report in the future then. Let me see here. I know that we talk about the UDA and the drug use and everything else tonight, but I'm also seeing, obviously, looking at our student discipline report tonight, you know, an excess amount of fights. You know, that I know that even previously there was a WASP visit to Alward High, I believe, on Monday, and several fights broke out during the middle of the WASP visit. You know, so, I mean, aside from the drug usage, whatever else that we're trying to address, how can we better address or best address, you know, what's going on our campuses with the fights? You have a response or no, not just for future?
No,
Okay.
I think we talked about it at a DLT amongst the principals on Monday, and I think that one of the things that have happened is that they've been cyclical. I mean, you think about Merced's opening of the year; they couldn't. We were going viral with the incidents at McDonald's, and you know, I think Marcus, with a steady hand, continued to address it, and it's kind of reminded them what it is to be Bear Strong, and again, put things into place, and it seems like it's Atwater's turn right now, and hopefully, you know, Ms. Parley is taking similar steps to try to address those things.
And then will somebody get back to Ms. Lack already as far as the AP classes? I mean, I do agree with her that, you know, that if we're gonna provide these courses across the district, you know, regardless of the number in that section, we need to do something to at least support those kids that want to take advantage of our AP classes.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could write down, and you know, the AP class and the meaning of an AP course has certainly transitioned, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, with more and more kids taking college courses. There's been a change in that status.
You know, with that, and I was looking for Ms. Laccaretti's email address after she left. We've referred several parents to AP Scout. That is a platform that is open through the College Board, and it's an option for parents, you know, to have their child take that AP course, especially if we don't offer it.
I think one of the things we talked about when we were closed for Zoom, though, was that we now have the platform and the technology to where students at Golden Valley can be taking classes that are offered at El Capitan or wherever that school is. And I feel like we didn't do anything with that opportunity, and AP Scout is fine, but that's not going to work for every student and every family. Kids want to be on their campus. They want to be with kids, and the community college offering is exceptional. But for some students who have really grand college aspirations, they need to take AP classes. College classes aren't enough. So I think that's you know, I mean, her comments are fair, and we would, I think, just ask that you look into that further.
Yeah, there's different things that we can explore, sure.
Just to finish up real quick on a positive note, I do want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Viviana. I think your presentations on MTSS, academic, UDA, you know, recognizing students, I think it's spot on who we are and what we represent. And I do appreciate those reports because I think they're meaningful, they're valuable. They give us additional insight as to what's truly happening at MUHSD and how we can improve the processes and programs that we have in place. So I thank you guys for all the work that you continue to do every single day, because it's showing, and it's all positive things that are happening for our kids that in the long run is going to benefit us all. And last but not least, I want to, congratulate Mrs. Ballinger on your promotion, and I look forward to the great work ahead. And then last but not least, Dr. Aguilar, I've been in this journey with you for the last 8 years. You made a lot of great things happen at MUHSD, with the CT programs, expanding opportunities for kids, having those meaningful conversations with teachers as far as best curricular programs that are out there for our students, and it's shown, and I know the graduation rates are just one factor, but it's the main factor that everybody focuses on. So I attribute a lot of those successes that we're seeing in graduation rises based on a lot of the work that you pushed and just led the way for MUHSD. So thank you very much, and I wish you the best at Riverbank. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Jayasinga.
Well, start off with thank you, Dr. Aguilar, for everything you've done for our students at MUHSD. You've definitely left your mark. And we can't wait to see all your successes or read about them at Riverbank. I'm sure you'll do really well, so good luck and best wishes. And congratulations, Mrs. Ballinger. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Viviana for, really showcasing all our student achievements on social media, on all our social media platforms, and through all other methods of communication. I love, going on my social media feeds and seeing all our student accomplishments, which are many in every arena, whether it's academic, sports, all the extra activities. So I love the fact that we're, showcasing every single school. So thank you for that. I did have, so a couple of parents actually reached out to me, and this is, talking about some of the other things that our students are looking for. Recently, the PSATs, and I'm not sure exactly who to direct this question to, but the PSATs and the SATs, and how that communication is going out to the students, and then is it also going out to the parents if the students are kind of on their own to register for and prep for those tests. I know a lot of universities now are test blind or test optional, but again, for those students who are looking for beyond California or, grand plans, those test scores are important. So what are we doing for those students? Is it the same at every school? How's the communication going out? How are those students being prepared? Or are they on their own? Which I think is a disservice to our high achievers. So I would like to know how consistent that communication is.
Mandy Ballinger?
We'll
add it to her list.
With that, that's all I had. Thank you.
Dude, not yet. April 1st. April 1st.
Mandy, I'll save you. That's mostly Title I. Torrin, that's yours. Torrin and Jeanette.
Thank you, everyone. DTA mentioned, and I've heard from other staff members kind of repeatedly of late, many concerns around campus safety and what are the ramifications for students. They just don't seem to be, on one hand, we're talking about all these interventions, and on the other hand, we've just got such extreme discipline issues that people don't feel safe. So there's a need for somewhere in the middle, or we've got to make sure that staff and students feel safe as well. I would love for a campus to invite me to go see Read 180 in action. I got to go see team teaching at Golden Valley last month, and that was awesome. Really, it's one thing to hear about it, it's another to see it in action, and so that was really great to see at Golden Valley. We heard through multiple presentations tonight and different people how important it is for us to work with our feeder schools. We heard it on reading, math, social, emotional, behavior, drug issues. And I know we talked a little bit last month about wanting to get a group together to work with specifically Merced City. Dr. Aguilar, you have really been pushing and done some good work around getting that relationship going and bringing to light some of the issues that we have there. Alan let me know he had a meeting with the superintendent of Merced City School District last week, and they are hoping to put together a meeting that I believe they're inviting you and I to, Amali. Okay. I also wanted to echo what's been said about social media and communications, and just a huge thank you to Viviana. One of the, it's one thing to do great work, and it's another thing for the community to know about the great work, and that's where you've just elevated the position of Merced Union High School District in the community, and you've done an exceptional job, and people are talking about positive things that are going on here, not just the bad stories, which is what people otherwise focus on. So again, thank you for doing that. So congratulations, Mrs. Ballinger, again. And yes, there was a lot of bragging on you in closed session, and the board moves forward with a lot of confidence in you in this position. And then Dr. Aguilar, 26 years with the district as a coach, teacher, assistant principal, and assistant superintendent. And now on to the big position. And obviously, yeah, we all think Riverbank students and staff are very lucky to have you. And this is a great community, and we're sad to lose you, and we really appreciate the longevity and the time and tenure that you've put in here, particularly your work around the CTE program, and not just launching it and then leaving it. You've tweaked and refined and made it better every year, and appreciated your remarks today. I do think that we have a hook with kids. They want to be here. My freshman, he's working on 3 pathways, right? And that's what he's excited about at school. And then the reading and the math follow because they're important for these careers, and it's a way to show the relevancy. So thank you so much for doing that. And then you worked with UC Merced and Merced College, and you've really made those partnerships stronger. And so again, it's, I know you leave behind a lot of friends and a lot of legacy and big shoes to fill for Mrs. Ballinger. And we will miss you, and we appreciate you, and we very much wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much. And with that, we will close out of open session and go back into closed session. Thank you to everyone for your patience tonight. Oh, that was the other thing. Your last night, you didn't get to make a presentation. We kept you here till almost 9 o'clock. I mean, it's a special going out. We kept you kind of quiet.
Torrin took over the torch of the longest presentation, I think, for 22-23. So thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Johnson, for carrying that torch. The trophy will be on your desk tomorrow morning.
Do you have any closing remarks, Dr. Aguilar, I should have asked?
No, it's been an honor, serving the Merced Union High School District and all of its communities. And I'm not leaving. Riverbank will be playing Livingston. So, and my wife is, she's still teaching here, and my kids are still here. So I'm definitely not saying goodbye. You'll see me wearing different colors for sure, and the banter will start April 1st.
Excellent, excellent. All right, at 8:53, we move to closed session.